Oh, good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I think before a meeting today.
yes, Christy left, earlier, she said that she's gonna be
Coming
getting
back
here, yeah,
for yourself.
yep, she'll be here.
Okay.
Rebecca was just in here, she's running around, but she's staying. I've got a few other people that registered, Drake
Is this?
and Lisa, yes, it is, should be ready to go. But, okay, so you have to click this first, and then now you can go back.
Oh, yeah, cool.
It's weird, sometimes you have to click that, but, and I've got the Zoom up just in case people, when I hop on
Okay.
online.
Yeah.
But everything else is good to go.
It's here. Well, I'm gonna use the restroom real quick.
Yes. Ain't nobody in here yet.
It's in the bathroom.
All right, I bet.
On what it took instead of what. Done. I go TJ guys, buy me a reader. What do you have for the room? What do I have tomorrow? Oh. Hello. Let's see, what do I have? What am I feeling?
How are you all?
Good.
Good. Hey, Rob. Good, how are you?
Hey, how many spots?
Good, how are you?
I am, I'm totally.
Yes.
Like, you're not, I didn't do this spot. I stop at 276, I had something else. Just one that.
Hey, that's Steve.
Sit down and one. Yeah. I sit, my sister like, look at my, I took a picture of my, look at my butt, Nice.
Okay.
I want to do this.
Yeah. You're out.
Yeah, okay, good, it's gonna be great. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm gonna send it over.
All right. Hello.
Hello. Oh. We went to one view. So it's where at? Where is it? I need to pour in, oh, okay, here, right.
We'll give everybody a couple minutes to get settled, get their coffee, their jackets, whatever they need, because it is chilly in here.
Bathroom.
We got a little bit of extra time built into this class today. If you don't mind, I'm gonna sign fire inspection response report
Okay.
or accelerate, whatever.
Whatever you're doing.
You get this there closed.
I go buy readers. Because I had to stop by TJ Maxx and buy me some readers because I left mine at home. I'm not gonna be able to take notes and look at this pamphlet without any readers.
Well, Dee, but you're welcome to come there. Come, it's over.
She's like. I'm 60
Yeah, I laid them out, so y'all can be in the front.
So
Yeah.
Alex and Brad, that their lease on their apartment ends in March.
Okay,
And they are worried that basically after all of the searching that we've done, that they think that they don't have enough money to get the house that they
that
want.
they want the
and
price.
need. Right,
Money.
they have about 180,000 to spend right now.
It's hard. I mean, they go on any-
No,
Unless they're in the-
we're happy to hear it. Yeah, so, they wanted to find something that was only had cosmetic issues for 180, and it's like. Yeah,
I got one that's.
all my recent friends are like, oh, you get it, yeah, you were. Don't touch that.
At least you're in 180. I have one that wants 150, you know?
Right,
It's like,
Okay, well, sure.
you want a basement too?
yeah, I'm in the basement, yeah,
Green
exactly.
salad.
I love green
Okay, just-
I have never
been there.
Oh, wait a minute.
It's really good.
Our friend works for Green District and her husband runs this store.
Right, yeah.
So every once in a while I go in and they're there.
I got one to talk
How's
to
it going?
Greg real quick.
Yes, I-
I
Somebody
don't, I
that
teach
we
the
know-
class. What do you got?
Somebody that we know, they wanted to rebuild the fence. They wanted 15 or more acres. They wanted a horse
Is Rachel still
with
here?
the full stalls.
And they wanted it for $100,000.
I know you know about.
Well, they wanted
Oh, yeah.
200.
Thank you.
No more than 200.
I'll grab
It's
one
like
down here. Thank you. Okay. All right, thanks.
I'll send you a message
That's
as soon as
not
I
acres,
go
the
out.
horse barn.
Appreciate
And
it.
stalls.
It's just not out there, no.
Yeah, it's like, you know, as much as the people sleep through them, we want to tell people if they want to hear. You know, you guys say.
Ain't having it.
Are we waiting for anybody else?
Sorry about that.
Over there.
You just got the key people here,
We're here.
top notch group.
Wait, we're just Amy.
Amy Dixon's coming.
Who's your bag in
Get a
here?
haircut, right?
I thought she was coming in here.
No, she said she'd get her haircut.
Oh,
She got it.
maybe Rob's cutting her hair.
I don't know which key bag this is.
I don't have it.
Hers is that brown bag, you know?
I think Jen.
You can try.
Is that a part of your value proposition?
There it is.
Oh, was it maybe Rebecca also? I think that was her
I
first.
think that's her, yeah. To this.
Yeah, it's just sitting right
Do
here.
we want to give her a couple minutes to show up or do we want to go you start?
Brenda, you might be over there all by yourself if you want to come join us.
Oh, yeah, I know, that's a good point.
Yeah. Really, it looks like.
Come on, we got,
Looks like we put.
I'd say let's rock and roll, Rob.
Rock and roll.
Brandon, okay. Let's do it.
You can get some of your stuff. Yeah, but like, why am I in charge of you? I don't know.
Here's a testament to Rob's class. I took his one before and I'm back again. I need to go on that one. This is my third one. See, I had two other than those,
I can relate to,
but the
the
sellers,
you can relate to the square part since I'm such a square.
I get so much. Oh, yeah. There are two on.
I get so much.
Good luck, Brad. Good luck with them, yeah.
We get some time.
All right. So I also know Rachel has taught this class.
Do what?
Didn't you teach value squared?
Mhm.
Yeah. Did you teach it for sellers or buyers or?
Sellers,
Sellers?
only seller.
Well, we're gonna talk about sellers again today. So,
That's what I was, many times I can hear it, it's helpful right now.
and this class works best if we participate, right? Because I've got between 90 minutes and 2 hours to teach this. And you all will decide how we go, right? I can just talk for 90 minutes. I can talk for 8 hours. Nobody.
Yeah.
However, that extra half hour is really for us to interact and,
Yeah.
because I learned from you. Okay, so, all right, and I'm using the script from, Connect. That Jason Abrams used when he taught it.
Yep, that's a good one.
And I got a bunch of highlighted notes, things that stood out to me that I want to make sure I bring up. So I will be reading from the book of Ephesians, and be weird. Anyway, so value squared. So who's taking this? So I know Rachel has,
I have.
Christy, I know you have. Who else has taken this class before?
I think I have it. I think Amy Dixon taught it at one point. I think I took it with her.
Okay,
Yeah.
anybody watch it when Gary and Jason and Jay taught last
Well,
year?
that, I watched it as part of your class,
Yeah,
that very first one, but that was the first time, wasn't it? Or was it?
that was the first time we were teaching it back in July.
But I thought we were like watching it as part of them.
Oh, yeah, we did. We did.
Okay,
Well, I forgot that we had set that up because nobody in Marcus here said it. That was in April last.
I was there for that one when they taught it.
Yes.
They're
yes.
at the location or they're?
It was in the library.
Oh, at the library.
Yeah.
So the source of this is you said Connect.
You go to connect,
KW Connect, right?
you're on command, and you know on command, there's command and connect. Click on connect, and if you search Value Square, you can find all of the content,
Mhm.
the PowerPoint that I'm using.
Mhm.
You can find the instructor slides, all the information is there.
Okay.
So you can download it for free.
Okay, and the buyers is there too.
Yeah. So I have, the same PowerPoint is the buyer, I just hit those slides for this presentation, so, because it does take about 3 hours if you do the buyers and sellers together,
Okay,
right? And when they ask for pictures again, next time I'll do ours.
okay.
So, okay. All right, well, let's get started, so. I'm excited to teach the class. I do think it, let me sit down, I've got a problem with my knee, so if you see me sitting down, just.
Oh, be comfortable.
We're in a race on it, right now, it's good.
Age, that's what I chalk it up to.
Thank you. Age, you say age,
Babe, I just turned 50 now.
Oh, don't even talk to me about this. I know, all right. Y'all don't get the age card. I get to play that one.
Supplement. Oh, she's right.
first thing we have to say is a bunch of disclaimers, right? So, you must always be TCPA compliant. You know, there's changes coming on that, or at least there is everything's going through the courts right now, and it's possible that the change gets struck down. We're supposed to know this month. I shared something with Misty yesterday that I got from Cody Gibson. On Thursday last week, she said she's gonna share it with the Home Market Center. So you're gonna get an email with an updated one pager from KWRI Legal about TCPA compliance. Don't
TCPA, you're saying.
make the TCPA, make sure you read that, okay? Because the rules are likely gonna change about for people to opt in writing for us to be able to call them.
And I don't know if a lot of people know what that is. The only reason I even know anything about it, because the CRM that I'm using, I had to fill out some paperwork to be TCPA compliant, and I didn't know anything about it. So are you all familiar with what that is?
I mean, a little bit from working in California, that they're really adamant about the do not call list there. And I didn't know there was changes coming.
Yes,
And that those changes are nationally.
yes.
And is it just that
Yeah,
they're
it's a
just?
federal law, and the change would be based on that federal law.
Okay.
Okay.
So just if you're unsubscribed to KWRI emails, you need to resubscribe. I don't know how you do that, but you need to get these emails because KW Legal is putting out those things. Balance at KW.com, email it send out.
Recently, one of the updates, if I'm remembering correctly, was the business to business
Yeah,
thing. Is
that's
something that's
one that went through, but there's another one with business to personal that is going through courts right now.
Gotcha.
I think it's this week.
Okay.
I'm not for sure.
Will our office bring that to us?
Well, I've been sharing things with Misty as I get it from Max Coaching, because we're asking the question more often, I think.
Yes.
Actually,
It comes out through the office.
I had a client in Florida in December that brought it to my attention. I called Joy, who is Jason Abrams' personal assistant, and they didn't know about
Okay.
it.
Huh,
And
So
then
we're
a
on the
week
cutting
later,
edge.
I got the updated one page,
okay.
and they said, thank you for bringing it to our attention. So I was gracious of my client in Fort Myers, who does a lot of code law.
Very nice.
Because he's worried about his business model.
Now, is it just, and not just for clarification, is it just when we send out emails or phone calls that they have to have the option of being able to click to opt in or not opt in, right? Emails or phone calls both, right? Or is that not right?
No, it is emails, it is phone calls, it is text messages. And it is more about robocalls and robo communication, right?
Versus.
I think, but
There's talk about dialers being,
okay.
so I don't know if anybody uses the dialer,
Mojo does.
but that's not been approved yet, but that's what one of the big things right now is can use a dialer.
Yeah,
Because
so
they
we were
call
talking
it,
something.
even though you may be the person, they consider that a robocall.
Yeah.
Because it's computer assisted. phone call.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Okay.
I'm not gonna pretend to be an expert on TCP compliance, I just know that if you're gonna call this, you do not call.
Yeah.
Right?
right.
And you gotta go knock on their door or find another way to get on.
Sure.
Now, this is the weird thing about it. So let's say they're on the list, but they sign up on X site, whatever.
Mhm.
looking for assistance. I mean, those are legitimate able for us to go ahead and call, and there's nothing they can do about that if they registered on a site.
Yeah.
correct?
My concern on those websites is that they're opting in to receive
That's
communication.
what I thought, so
And
this,
it was a period of 18 months that you could communicate with them. If they continue to communicate with you, then it's extended, but there's, like I said, there's some changes that I'm not fully briefed on that might be coming, so just. Keep it on your radar.
It sounds like you're on the cutting edge and that helps all of us, so thank you.
You're welcome, and we'll just, like I said, if I get anything from Maps, I'll make sure I share it with Misty so she can send it out to everyone. So.
Good, yeah. Good to know, I'll be on the radar for that.
All right, and then negotiating commissions disclaimer. So don't need to read that. We're not gonna talk about commissions today. Okay, we're not gonna talk about what I charge, what you charge, and everything else. We're just not gonna do it. So if it's something, if
Don't
you
put
want
any
to talk
else.
about it, then we're gonna use the word bananas,
Okay.
and it doesn't mean anything other than just an example.
I do have a question, I'm
Yes.
just curious, since we got a good group of people here. Other than your normal bananas that you charge, is anybody doing an administrative banana?
No, I don't.
I'm doing the measure of banana.
There's some other people that do too, and I've thought about it, and I haven't done it yet.
Some of them.
They did, yeah.
We did over there, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know, was there a lot of agents that are starting to do that? And can you call it administrative banana?
I think it's,
Or do you have to
it's a
work-
fee, so we can talk about it all day long. It's not a commission, okay?
It's
Yeah,
not a
that's-
percentage of stuff, so,
Yeah.
okay.
So I've had zero, we've been doing it for 2 years now.
Okay.
We started with 299 bananas and now.
So how you sell
399
it?
bananas. And we've had maybe one objection. Wow. Out of maybe 175.
I've been debating that.
It's like the title companies, I mean, they have a series of fees.
You just gotta put it on your next sheet and you have to make sure it's on the listing agreement or you can't charge it.
And that is Big Red, who's been administering that. Okay,
Some of it is relative.
okay.
Yeah,
But I mean, you were doing it when you were Big Red,
Correct.
if that's what I mean.
So we were doing it and, I just for me going to Canada Union again and again, and going to those breakouts and they're talking about,
It's just-
we charge $895, we charge 400, we charge 200, we charge 199.
Yeah.
I calculated how many it would take for me to pay for my operation staff, and that's what we came up with.
Okay.
And it's just another revenue stream
It is,
for you. And you people don't really question it, you're saying?
like I said, I've had one person question, it, they all paid. But it's a one person question.
Yeah.
What is that? Oh, that's a transaction fee for office. Okay,
That's
that's
a-
literally
It's
the
all
only
on how you
question.
deliver.
It wasn't the objection, so it,
And that is, it comes straight through to you, it's a pass through.
depending on the title company.
Uh-huh,
So like when you put commissions in command,
uh-huh.
the office knows when the check comes in, if there's a difference, they'll see the difference in that transaction fee.
Okay,
Some, like Momentum will give us 2 checks. One for the commissions and one for the transaction fee.
you would like that probably better,
I like it better, but other title companies can buy.
but they're not taking any splits or anything out of that as the office, it's a pass through one way or the other, direct or indirect, it's a pass through.
It's still paid through KW, but it's paid straight to the
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
without
It's much easier than I thought it would be.
So if you're an individual and you don't have a team, I can
You
use
can
that
call it.
to use it,
Same way.
a
Absolutely.
transaction.
I think
Yes.
they were in the office, they charge whatever, 200 to. So that's what they get charged for a transaction.
Yeah.
So,
For the person that you pay to do that stuff, yeah.
yeah.
It's, yeah, I mean, I saw other agents in this office doing it before I did it.
Yeah.
And then I just started going to those breakouts at Canada Union because I was seeing it more and more.
That's where I'm at right now.
What am I missing? Remove the limited rule.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
So, and with the pressure on, well, actually, I thought it was really interesting today for those in the partner meeting. That the bananas have gone up.
I was
I'm not
surprised
surprised.
about that.
I'm not
I am,
surprised.
I am a little bit, but that's.
In my coaching, I've seen the same thing.
In what?
In my match coaching job, I've seen the same thing.
And
I'm not surprised, I feel like people plan to pay more bananas now because implemented.
Well, because like she said, you have to show now more so what your value is. What is the word that he used? How did he both put it? Something about without value. Something that you're not getting anything without the value, but now that you have to show your value, you're worth more. That's basically the gist of what he said. And I thought that was a really cool way to put it. And I think that is exactly the
I
reason.
think that's why this class exists,
Yeah.
right? Because in the absence of value, you have no worth.
Yeah.
Right, you have.
I think that was it, without the, absence of value.
We don't know our own value, how are we gonna convey it to others?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, for how many years were we incorrectly teaching buyer's agents that, hey, you're free? You should tell them you're free.
Yeah,
I
somebody
was
else,
told that in 2017 when I started.
yeah, somebody else is gonna
Just
pay.
tell them it's free to work. Oh, well, I guess it is, yeah, it makes sense, so I would use that, not realizing that was actually illegal.
Yeah,
Well, and it was devaluing you all at the same time.
it sounded good to go
Basically, I
buy.
was like,
Yeah, you're right.
I'm so valuable to sell to a community customer.
Yeah.
A lot of incorrect thinking that led to our ability, well, basically as a buyer's agent, we gave control of what we made to somebody else. All together, we weren't even in the room, it was negotiated,
Yeah, as long as we
And
were.
now-
I think we did.
and now we're in the room and it's negotiated.
Yeah.
Right?
Part of our conversation.
So. Uh,
That's just bananas.
So I'm gonna speak to this. And I just wanna see if anybody else having the same. So initially, so for those who do a lot of transactions, we might be doing, personally, I'm doing like 2 to 3 a month. And I'm also selling a couple flips a month, so I see this from the seller side a lot. In August, in September, and probably October, almost every time someone's gonna do a show and last, almost. They ask me, is the seller paying some bananas?
Yeah, I'm still.
Almost every time. I've only had it happen once in the last,
Where they haven't asked.
where they've asked.
Oh,
They've only asked once.
Oh, compared to when it first came out.
And it was yesterday. And the other times, I just get an offer and they're asking for blank bananas. And so I'm seeing that more and more. They're
People are
just
just putting
asking
it
what they want.
They're putting it in writing. They're not like trying to come and see what you are willing to do. They're just putting it in writing.
Yeah, probably the last 4 flips I've sold, I put in a contract that I own. They have not asked me what we're paying. They just put that out there and we negotiate. And a couple of times I had sellers that I was representing. We were offering one certain type of bananas and they were asking for a higher number of bananas. And the difference may have only been $500
Okay.
on a $250,000 listing kind of average, right?
Yeah,
And the seller said, I'm okay with it.
And they gave them the
Every
extra
time.
bananas.
I'm
well,
okay with it.
that's
Now,
what I
again,
did.
small sample of numbers, but every time. That wasn't an important number to them, that difference of $500 to get the deal done was seemingly inconsequential.
And it's better for our industry when we're paying our associates and our co-brokers more bananas, our whole industry bananas.
Well, and I think that's always been my biggest struggle with some of this, are the agents that don't know how to show their value. That maybe they don't explain at a high level paying bananas to other agents, let's just say. So if somebody, like I've called people, and because I still call, but this is what the difference is, what I'm doing right now, I'll still ask about the bananas. But then a lot of them are not the typical that we see in our market, I'll say that. So then I go on and send them my form of what I should feel confident with getting, and it might be the difference of.
Yeah.
Whatever, 500.
And if you can hold your fellow realtor high, give them an extra $500, it's okay with your seller, why not do it? I'm sorry, you were about to say something.
Well, I was just gonna say, there have been times where, for instance, we had written in 3, right?
Bananas.
Bananas. And we, ultimately, then the seller was willing to give us 2.8 bananas. And, since the 3 bananas was in our buyer brokerage exclusive, then ultimately that we have the option there to either waive the 0.2% of the bananas or collect it, right? There have been instances where, we knew that the buyer, was in a position where they didn't have, a ton of money, extra money to throw around, and we had waived it. And there's been other times where our buyers felt like we deserved it, and they were like adamant about making sure that we had gotten what, so it's interesting that, that little extra sometimes, you know, but like either way, I mean, if, like you said, if we need to let go of that, 0.2%, then. move on.
And I have a clarification question, and sometimes I think I should know these things and shouldn't have to ask, but I'm gonna ask anyway. When you said that people are, instead of calling you, they're just putting in the paperwork. You know, in the purchase agreement, there's a place where they ask for so many bananas in the actual purchase agreement itself. And then there's the additional document that people are asking for bananas in the compensation banana document.
That document's probably,
Okay,
that's 25 is coming.
okay, that's where I didn't know that, so that's good. I'm glad I asked the question.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so it's
I-
only in the purchase
Just
agreement.
on the first now.
Okay,
Actually, the lease agreement doesn't even have
anything about bananas?
for the buyer,
For the buyers, yeah.
Okay,
at all.
yeah,
It
just
doesn't have-
your
I
seller.
think it's still a fiduciary to prepare them for that conversation, right?
Yeah,
Even though it's
still.
not-
Yeah,
But I don't think a lot of people are gonna do that now that it's not in there, just to get the business.
Well, that's why I think the commission are gonna be hard too, because you put 3.5 bananas for yourself, and then so you kind of, you a buyer, you have to free.
So,
sellers.
I'm gonna-
Bananas.
I want to share a story, and then we're gonna go ahead and start.
All right, because this is
Yeah.
a
So
big.
this is a good conversation. There's gonna be a point in this conversation. to
Okay,
continue
good.
Station, but I want to share a story because it's gonna happen to all of us at some point. Especially when we're dealing with agents that only sell 2 or 3 months a year, okay? So yesterday, on a listing that I own, that we flipped, got an offer, we got it on Sunday. The agent didn't fill out that section. Okay, it's like a blank. And they put in one price, it was 240,000.
Okay.
Cash, and I'm listed, let's just say it's 250. And which the offer was okay, but I was gonna counter it at 245, okay? And then Rachel and I realized that she didn't fill that section out, I was like, well, I've already calculated in my numbers that I'm paying for, because I will pay that, I will pay the value of the organization and all my trips.
Technically, yeah, whether they write it in or not,
My point, my numbers, when I figure out the flip, include that, right?
yes, already.
So in my negotiation with the agent, I was thinking, okay, well, they made a mistake. So I should plan on paying that in my counter.
Yeah.
Counter back at 245, I signed the counter. Rachel got a phone call from the agent as she was getting ready to send the counter. The agent says, I screwed up. I'm so sorry. I forgot to ask for my commission on the contract. I don't know what to do. And Rachel, who's my director of office, she's also an agent, who I love her to death, she was like, I think we got a problem here, I don't know what we can do.
Playing hard.
She goes, what were you gonna ask for? He was gonna ask for 3%, well, I don't, so she can do that.
I love
And she said, maybe if you come back, maybe if you were willing to pay full price, we can probably get the deal.
Great.
Well, what if I go down to 2%, 2 bananas, and full price, would that work?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And we wrote the counter offer and sent it, they signed it.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
So, first of all.
I don't feel
like-
bad about it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I like, you're good.
I know, she will, I almost would have felt bad about it, just because I almost would have, but I'm like, well, they didn't do it, you
Yeah,
got.
but you know what, I just, I'm like you, the ethics of that,
The buyer, that was-
I know.
I like that you had it in there, you were gonna pay it.
Already.
You had the grace for that person that you knew they messed up, you knew it was gonna come back and they're gonna freak out.
And Rachel deserves a great.
Yeah, but I-
Whatever the number of bananas, the percent of bananas, you still were just gonna do the right thing, and that's what I respect so much.
And that's good, so, but not all agents are wrong.
No,
And not all agents.
No, but that's
the
why-
training we did is all.
I know,
well, that's why I wanna be here, is because we're
It's
talking
not
about
much of chasing facts,
yeah.
and
somebody misses it.
we're gonna continue to see that, right? I mean, it's 70. The number that I heard last week, and I don't know what you all heard, 74% of agents in the country have not sold a house in the last year.
74%.
74%
Nationally.
have not sold a house, right? So if that's the case, then as the market, if these agents stay in the business, as the market returns, there's gonna be a lot more agents that are selling houses for the first time. 6 months out, and they're likely gonna work with someone who's been already selling houses. And listing properties, who knows the rules, who doesn't know the rules. I'm just waiting for that call says, hey, I noticed on the in-laws you didn't put in your commission, what's going on?
Yeah,
They're like, "Oh."
it's gonna happen, or they don't know.
Anyway,
Matter.
Well,
So,
better read the books and come back.
I'm happy to educate people, is when they ask for it, right? So, all right, are you ready to jump in? So the last thing on here talks about fiduciary, and there's a whole section on fiduciary, so I'm not gonna mention what that says on fiduciary presentation. That is our goal, right? Fiduciary, not functionary, so.
Oh, really?
Got it up on the screen, hey, it's like this.
Right?
So here we go, we're gonna start with value. And it says on the screen here,
Not yet.
I don't even try to read that. Anyway, Alicia puts it notes. So value is the heart of all businesses because all businesses are an exchange of value. You determine the value you provide and your clients determine how valuable it is to them. The goal of this material is to help you understand how important value is and how you can build your business around it. All right, so this is truly a conversation about your value and how well you can communicate that to your clients, okay? What isn't in today's program is the homework that I'm gonna ask you to do for yourself. I'm not gonna check on it, it's up to you to do, okay? So, let's talk about the law of value. You know, this is all very capitalist DNA all over, right?
Oh,
We
yeah.
have models and systems and we have laws.
Thank God for people like that.
So, so the law of value expert says that the value you give determines the value you get. So what you give and what you get in return are in direct relationship to each other, right? The challenge for all businesses is they must explain and demonstrate the value they will give so well that people agree to their price before they experience it. All right, now we do that all the time in the world, right? When do we pay for something or agree to pay for something before we experience it?
When we see it on the shelf at the store.
Okay, what else?
I'm thinking in the real estate world, I mean, I really want to get them to sign our listing contracts or purchase contracts or buyer consultation contracts.
Well, again, so there is in real estate, we're gonna promise something that may happen 3 months from now, or 6 months from now, a year from now.
Mhm.
And it's hard because everyone loves immediate gratification, even for buyers and sellers to agree to our value when it's so far down the road, okay? How many of you been to a restaurant?
Steakhouse.
Okay, yeah, and maybe I've used this example before, but it sticks with me because we go to a restaurant. And we agree on the menu, what this is gonna be worth this much, and I have an expectation that I'm gonna receive this much. And the only thing that we do after the fact is we tip a server based on the experience that we had, right? But everything else is an agreement up front. The value I receive, I'm going to receive. And sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, right? And we know this to be true because we've done it so much. We've been out to eat enough times to know that I can trust that if I go to Texas Roadhouse, that steak is gonna be worth $30 or whatever it says on the menu, right? Or I wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Right? And we can use reviews and other things to determine whether or not it's worth the money I'm going to spend, right? Is there a value that they're promising, a value that I'm agreeing to pay for? Okay? So people, our buyers and sellers, have lots of experience in paying for things before they get to use it. Okay?
Yeah.
This is just an extension of that. Okay?
Yeah.
So. The 3 ways that real estate agents present and deliver their value is establish trust. We'll talk about that. Provide fiduciary presentations, we're gonna talk about that, and then deliver core services with positive and memorable client experience that also will surprise and delight. All right, jazz hands, right?
Yeah.
So,
I never
Yeah, we'll talk
thought I'd
about
say
that.
rock games, do jazz hands, okay?
all right,
It's a whole new side.
No.
It kind of reminds me of Raven Band.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Joe Stone.
And,
And by referral only in raving fans, that's where that comes from in my mind anyway.
yeah, it's almost, our process to surprise the light a lot longer than going in there and they have.
Yeah, yeah, and an hour later, you know.
But then all of a sudden, can bring your hands, people are expecting better, they're back into it.
Yeah,
So when you surprise them like it's a bigger deal now.
That's right.
Because the environment around it, they're like, well, it wasn't worse than last time, so it
yeah,
must be.
our
good."
standards have gotten low.
Yes.
Yeah, but that, the ring makes sense. Yeah, that really applies here.
All right, so, and because this is Gary Keller, we're gonna have them. All right, which I love. All right, so this is called the sandwich model. If you wanna know what type of model this is. You have established builder of trust on the top, that's your bun. Bottom bun is fiduciary, and then the meat in the middle is all the core services and how we provide them. Okay? All right, so established trust. All right, so we're moving to section 1, so, for trust, all right, so Gary drew another one, which is the circle of trust, okay? And in this, he talks about the first path down around the circle of trust is empathy, all right? And empathy, so this is when someone demonstrates understanding and caring in an authentic way. Empathy is at the top of the model because caring is the basis of trust. All right, we've all heard that saying that people don't know they don't care how much you know until they know that you care about them, right?
Yeah,
So, so understanding, caring, being authentic starts us on the circle of trust, and then we move into confidence. All right, this demonstrates that you have the knowledge and the skills to do the job of the task, and then you have the experience to back it up. Jason Abrams said, I might know that you care about me, but if you don't have the skill, I just said this to help me, then that's just a nice footnote. Okay, so that's why it starts with caring and then moves into building the knowledge and skills aspect of your business. So, all right, and then we move into transparency. So transparency, are you truly demonstrating honesty, not just in your words, but in your actions as well? So that's continued openness, honesty, clarity in all your communications, right? And then you have dependability, which means you're gonna do it again and again and again. All right, customers are looking to see if they can depend on you to do the work that you were hired for and communicate that you will do it on a consistent basis, right? Okay, so over time, so that is building the trust up front, what I just explained, right? And then you have over time, how you keep the trust, because gaining agreement is just one part of the process, right? Because we have to keep that client wanting to work with us through the entire process. All right, it's the listing in this market, when our median days on market is 71 days. We've got more work to do than ever before, well, not ever before. That really just takes us back to like 2018.
I was like,
and
right before you.
2017, right? So, who's been in this business the longest?
33.
Lisa from
What's the longest days on the market you've ever seen, you know?
I remember that I used to take 12-month listings
Okay,
and even plan for a re-up after that.
okay,
So I don't remember the statistic of the number of days, but I remember overall the market was, you didn't want to, like somebody only wanted to give you a listing for 6 months.
Yeah.
It'd be like somebody giving you a 30-day listing right now.
Was that a
Yeah, it was during the recession.
yeah,
Mhm. So, yeah, I mean, if you think about the difference of where we are, then you need people to sign a document for 12 months, and that was standard protocol at the time.
yeah. So who gets 12-month listings right now? Not commercial.
Shut it over there, Hazley.
As you should in commercial or land, by the way, I think you should always do it with 12 months land. But are you all doing 6 months right now?
Yes.
6 months.
Yeah. And
71
in
days.
2021, I was doing 90 days sometimes.
And 21.
Yeah,
That's what people wanted
because
back
people are
then.
like, well, I can send my house without you, great, give me 90 days. Right,
Yeah.
and then we get the list. I think I did a couple 30 days.
And your value proposition at that point was I can do it in this short
I
amount
can
of
get you
time.
more money in a shorter amount.
There you go.
And
Even
that
better,
earned
yeah.
you yourself.
That was easy to say back then too, because we knew if we put a listing in on Friday, I would put verbiage in the agent remarks about when we were gonna respond, highest and best by Monday at noon,
Yeah.
with response time of 5 o'clock. And it happened, I mean, every
Every
single
time.
time we put a listing.
You know, I remember telling the sellers the day we put it on the market, you need to have no plans. You can't be, don't think about going anywhere, you can go out of town, don't even want to be at a
Go to a
restaurant for
hotel.
dinner. You need to be prepared to be by your phone and work offers and email and not have anything in the next 24, 48 hours in your schedule.
So do we understand the difference between building trust and maintaining trust? Right?
Yeah.
But it follows on the same sort. Okay, so to build trust, it's really on how good you can present yourself, your presentation. And the things that you're doing for your business up front, like how many reviews do you have? How are you able to direct people to those reviews? All right, but your list, your pre-listing, your listing presentation, those are all the things that we do to build trust. And then all of our systems of communication and the work that we do to put into the listing to get it sold and everything that we tell people when we say, here's what happens next, those kind of things, that's all maintaining the trust over time, okay? Because I think the ultimate goal here, and you all would agree, is that we maintain the trust, then the reward is the review and the referrals and the continuation of business in the long run. All right? So. All right, so how trust is built or lost. All right, so for sellers, and they have two sides here, but some of them are the same. So number one, it's either built or lost when you're making the first contact. So do I need to talk about like what we should wear and how we present ourselves, showing up on time?
You shouldn't have to, but there's some people that need to know. Not anybody in here, I'm saying, but I know there's agents.
No one here, because you all are in here, right? But we all know there's other agents, that's a competition that maybe aren't as good at building trust because they can't do the simple things of that first contact, right? And then number two, when you're presenting value, reaching agreements and setting expectations, are you professional? Do you have a process that you can present? Do you have materials? Not everybody wants to read the materials. If you're talking to a high D, they're just like, just tell me what to execute, right? But if you get a high C, then they want to know, they want to see the presentation, right? So you have to prepare for whatever might be on the other side of that door, right? Number three, when you're educating around key milestones in the process. So do you actually explain the process? Do you tell them what's coming up next, right? That is, again, if you're not doing it, they lose trust. All right, if you don't tell them after they're under contract what's going to happen next, like, okay, they're going to turn earnest money and we're going to have an inspection and they're going to have this much long time to respond, and here's what's going to happen. If you don't tell them that, and then it happens and they're caught off guard, do they trust you more or less?
Yes.
They trust you less, okay? So all those steps are key.
And it's such an easy thing to do.
Mhm.
I mean, it really is, and it's unbelievable when I hear horror stories from sellers about experiences that they've had. I'm like, they didn't tell you this, or they didn't do that, what?
Yeah.
And I'm floored by it, but those are the people that haven't sold anything last year, or what, the 74% or
Yes.
whatever that you said.
Here's what I think also might happen sometimes, right? I've been doing this for 7.5 years. Sometimes we get complacent on our own systems, right? And I've had clients who I've worked with 3 or 4 or 5 times, and I get complacent because, hey, we've been down the road before. Never get complacent. Complacency, you lose trust, or you open up the door for losing trust, right? And I've made that mistake myself. I'm telling you, I've made that mistake in the last couple of years because I'm doing other businesses, I get distracted, and I forget to tell them what happens next. I forget to tell them the process. It's always, for me, it's always great when I know I'm working with a first-time home buyer, because I never forget the process with them, right? Because I want to hold their hand. But I'm working with someone who's experienced, I somehow manage to think their experience means something. It doesn't. For your systems, it doesn't. You keep doing what you're doing. All right, they'll tell you when it's too much.
And the expectations may have changed as the market's changed, and, you know.
That's absolutely true, yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
whether they're the
How
first
long
time or
will
the
it take someone
fourth time,
else?
yeah.
Well, I mean, it could be
Market's
4 months.
Yeah.
Right?
And buyer brokerage would be new to some of those sellers. They need to understand that too.
Rebecca, what you were saying?
Familiar people too.
That's
I
another
know
one.
if it's somebody that you're real close to and you've worked with in the past, you may just kind of slow it off when it's in hand.
I let my agents, my team list my flips. And I can tell you, not every agent on my team treats me the same. Some of them are just like, here you go, and others are like, well, I think you should do this, or I think you should do this. I want that level of service. If I'm gonna pay you a commission, you should treat me like a customer and not like someone who
It's a good friend.
Because it's every day, right?
Good friend or repeat
It's
clients.
different, and I'm more concerned about how they treat their clients than I am. About you know?
But that's the great learning process.
Yeah.
But I think that, we get, we're like, this is our job, so we just like, oh, well, yeah. But a seller's job is just wondering, I just saw the showing and you have not told me any response, and they're just sitting there going, well, the showing was over 30 minutes ago. We're like, yeah, well, I know it's gross, like, that's, I had to remember it, if I was in the seller's shoe.
How interesting.
Well, I mean,
I would say, I would want
Yeah.
information after the show. Because they're anxious to get that sold. And then,
Yeah.
and then all, me saying, well, I don't have anything for you.
Even letting them know I'm working on getting that.
No news is okay. All right, because you're still you're still maintaining the trust, right?
Yeah.
To tell them you don't have the news yet.
Heck, I tell them,
They know you're not working on it.
Yes.
You don't get feedback.
I mean, I don't know what you all say, but I tell them up front when I'm listening to property, hey, listen, we're gonna have showings. And at best, half the time we'll get feedback. And no matter what I ask for it, I'm not gonna get feedback. So I don't want you to get your hopes up that every single time we're getting feedback. And you just set an expectation, right? Again, and then when it comes true, you sound like you're a genius and you build more trust. Okay?
And then they call us and go, we're gonna work with Rob Gaines because he's a genius.
You know, and honestly, I think the best that you can set expectations up front is make your job easier throughout the entire transaction.
Well,
do that
that's
with
why I
bank.
think the buyer agency agreement is crazy if anybody was like nervous about it. I think it's better
Yes.
overall because you've already had these conversations up front, so you can show the physical all day
100%.
and not have to worry about if they're paying commission or not.
Because you've got it in writing.
Yep. It is, right? I mean, it's really good for our business. It forces us to show up as professionals. So, all right, when you're executing your marketing plan, all right, did you tell them you're gonna do Facebook ads? Did you tell them you open houses? Are you doing it? Gaining, or you can maintain a trust or you can lose the trust. So, when you're providing ongoing communication and feedback, if you have a seller, you should talk to them once a week, I think. Once a week. You may have other sellers that talk to you every couple of days. And then you have other sellers that if it's like, I had one gentleman last year who had a lot of land, I don't know, he was there a long time to sell, he was good once a month. He was a busy guy, always out of town, once a month was fine, he told me that, I asked him, I said, I usually talk to her once a week. He's like, Rob, if there's something going on, I don't need you to call me. All right, you call me when there's something happening, all right? Well, that's a challenging system too, because then I gotta remember.
I know.
Anyway, so I'm a creature of habits, so
So do you go in that case to command and set up a task for once a month?
I put it in my calendar,
Yeah.
just directly in my calendar, I put call this person.
Okay, so you go that way.
Yep. So that's my system.
Sure.
I use Brevity,
Okay,
if I'm being honest, I just put it in my calendar. So
yeah, so you brevity for.
Brevity is another CRM.
It's a pretty good one, I use.
It's something that Ben Kenny started years ago,
Yeah, he came.
but command is obviously free to use.
Yeah.
So I encourage y'all to use command.
So you use it as your CRM, but then your calendar is your tasks. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, and then for both buyers and sellers, when you're negotiating contracts. All right, I think this is your opportunity to show up with a high level of competency, but at the beginning of the circle of trust number is empathy. So listen to your clients, okay? Listen, but
Does everybody give a copy of the contract, a blank one with like void written across it or something for them to look at? Before they actually get the one that's coming through DocuSign, so they're familiar with it, since we don't sit at the table with them.
I don't, it depends on the age of the clients. I think older people want to read all that. Younger people like just send it to me. We'll just sign it electronically. And I offer, they want to sit down and do this, but normally I don't unless it's a particular type of person, and that's not really common for me.
You mean for buyer brokerages or any
Seller, yeah.
like a listing or a buyer brokerage? We have been trying to, like, whenever it first started, I felt most comfortable with the physical copy of it. That's just what felt best to me. So I'd sit down and I'd go blank by blank and I'd explain it the same way to everybody. And then at the end of it, and then I didn't have it filled out. I had what I knew was what needed to go and my blanks, my number at the end, but when it came to how many bananas, when it came to how many days, all of that is negotiable. I wanted them to feel good about it. So I described what was normal for us and what we did, and not most of the time, they're okay with that, and so we would fill it in that way. What we're trying to do is move more towards having all of that ready in our dot loop, you know, and have that ready in an electronic format. To then have them just to be able to, because the host in person signing is like super easy. And then it's already in our, you know, system there, but as for giving them, we do try to send them a copy of the signed version. For their records after the
I'm
fact.
saying,
Yeah.
just talking about before the fact, where they're not familiar with the contract.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, they're all excited because they've got an offer.
Yeah.
Or their offer's been accepted and they haven't really read through all that, and there's so much in there.
Yeah.
Nobody feels we need to do that.
Right, so you think that now with them after a purchase agreement?
No, send them an empty
It's-
one for them to read.
I do it based on request,
Based
it
on
may be
requirements.
less than 10% of the time where they request it, right?
Multi.
So if we're talking about a listing agreement, what I've done is usually we go ahead and we go through the contract in person, if it's someone who doesn't want to do the computer. And then I take pictures of it, and I'm with my scanner on my phone and leave them the original. So that they can review it, but they've already signed to that
That's
point. Now with the purchase agreement, because I think you brought that up too, right? I've already feel like I've done a good job of establishing trust. And so I go through the agreement, I ask if they want a copy, if I have,
When
they say yes.
The agreement, you sit on the computer, are you in the same room doing that?
We get an offer, they have it in front of them,
And you're on the phone?
and I'm on the phone
Okay.
going over it, or, what happens most of the time in reality is I'm going over it. They haven't seen it yet, because sometimes sending it to them scares them. So I'm gonna go through it, I'm gonna text you these 9 things that are the highlights, purchase price, what they're keeping, like microwave refrigerator, they earn this money, the closing date, what type of financing it is, are they asking for concessions, what is their bananas, whatever, you know, all those important things, I will text it to them. And I've gotten good response from this, right? So I'm gonna send you what's important on text, so you can talk it over with your husband or wife or whatever. I'm gonna email you the contract so you can look it over if you like. No, just send me the text, it's fine. That's more times than not, that's the response I get.
What happens is, in our experience, is that whenever we send them the blank contract with nothing filled out, and for them to just go over,
They're too nervous.
they start freaking out. It's pretty much, they don't understand it, they start worrying, they start going here, and their mind starts spiraling. And it could have been, if you were either on the phone with them or in person, then all of that could have been avoided
Yeah,
by
the
you explaining it.
legalese nature of the contracts with their.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
my comfort level was always sitting at the table with somebody, but we just don't do that anymore.
And again, you mirror the client.
Yeah.
I take a listing, like, if I go to listing appointment and I'm doing measurements, pictures and stuff, I'm gonna go through every line of the contract, and then sometimes. I kind of, well, this is what this means, and I'll go into major details, but then you get about. Listing or so, whatever, and then I'll go like, well, this part of this one, but then I say, hey, we went over this, I kind of fill it out within. And then I say, I'll submit all this electronically and you can sign, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's how I do it. But
Well, I think the confidence that you have gives them the confidence they need.
If they are confident in you, then I can say, would you like me to go through it line by line, or you can go through the highlights? And 9 out of 10 times, the highlights will be more than enough.
now if I know they're interviewing another listing agent,
Then, yeah,
then I'm gonna have to sign paper.
Yeah.
that's when you bring your pistol.
Yeah, bring your computer, like I'm sending this to you right now, and I'll call you later.
Sign or else.
Okay, has anybody, so number 7, when you are in the due diligence period, so that's under contract period for us. Has anyone ever, can they admit to letting the ball kind of drop in the transaction process? And it affected the attitude that now it's towards you?
Taking somebody else is taking care of it on the team that, yeah,
Yeah, so we've all had that happen,
or yeah.
and then you get to the end, you're like, not send them the review link. Okay?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's our fault, sometimes they just turn out to be crazy. Well, I'm sure you all have those too, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
of course, then when you're closing the transaction, these are all opportunities when to build or to lose the trust. So, all right. Any questions on trust? All right, so the summary here is before any core services. Frameworks can be created and executed, trust first needs to be established, you get that, right? Trust is the first thing. You can build it and then you must sustain it over time. Use the 8 moments, that's what we just went through, where trust is built or lost with your sellers and buyers as a template for building your real estate practice, for building your systems, right? For each moment, define as you will, define how you will demonstrate each component of the circle of trust, right? So of those each moments, how are you showing up as empathetic? How are you showing up as knowledgeable, all right, as having the expertise and the experience? How are you showing up and being transparent? All right, so go around the circle of trust and ask yourself in your systems. I mean, there's, like I said, I mentioned homework, right? This is the homework, right? So are we confident in our plan, in our systems, in our presentation? That we are building trust and then maintain. So, all right, any thoughts, any takeaways from this section before we move on?
I'm glad you budgeted the extra 30 minutes.
We're gonna do all of
With this, because we're gonna need it. This
it.
one.
Is that clock right there? That clock's
No, no,
I want to see the time, right?
you're at 153.
Okay, I guess about that fun talk before. All right. So we're gonna move on to the other bottom part of the model, which is fiduciary representation. And this is where we are representing our client's best interest at all times, you know. I like the new buyer agency agreement, the one that's a tenant buyer agency agreement. Because it says right there, I think it's section number 3. Where it says very clearly, like, our job as fiduciaries is to represent your best interest at all times, right? That's what it says, all right? Honestly, I don't think a lot of agents ever thought about that way until, at least in the end, until they read that. Because they don't probably read the bottom of the agency office policies document that we have a client sign, right? So I actually thought, oh, this is cool, it reminds everybody what it really is.
I have a stupid question. Is that what we signed first? The
The
agency?
agency office policies, it should be signed at the same time as you sign the agreement.
I've never.
I think in Kentucky, they used to be different though, to where at first, when you first met somebody, even if you were not sure if you were gonna work with them, I think at that time they used to make us required to do that, but that's all changed with the new buyer agreements. I don't think it's Kentucky, it's different now.
Well, the buzzword is so much about buyer brokerage right now. I think agency isn't the hot topic that it once was.
That's true.
I mean, our listing agreements have that same document in.
Yeah, well,
as part of
I
this
went to my
agreement.
compliance thing, I'm like, okay,
But it's
I
a-
sent this to you, but now when I work with a buyer, I'm like, I'll just send it to you
Yeah,
under contract. I don't send them at the time of the buyer. I'm just asking, it hasn't been pushed back or like why things that I'm
To
seeing.
get it signed before, at this time.
Okay.
I think it's probably good practice.
I think a long time ago, we used to have turn or paperwork. And you want to turn all at the same time. Now with everything being digital and submissions through the computer. Maybe it's changed, right? I guess I don't have true clarity on when we should have it signed. To me, I just feel paperwork signed.
Yeah.
So you do it with the listing, you do it with the purchase agreement. Should you be doing it with your buyer brokerage when you first start with them? Do buyer brokerage and agency then, even before you do a purchase agreement?
I think it'd be good practice.
Technically, it's the same
Deal.
thing. Signed.
Right.
So I would say yes.
Because it's the same topic. for both.
Right. Yep.
Nothing different between the two. It's not like they're conflicting in any way.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I just talked about that I've even thought about pairing those.
Yeah.
They're okay.
When you
signing
first
the
said it.
brokerage, they would be okay signing the ops policies, you know?
Yeah, it's all, there's repetition in the documents.
Sure.
One's for the state of Indiana, one's for office.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You can do it for the sellers, but you can definitely.
At the end of this, I want to ask you, Rob, about my new buyer brokerage and being new construction there representing the builder. We could talk about it now, or I could just get with you one-on-one so you keep moving.
We'll keep moving.
Okay.
We'll leave that, yep.
Okay, I just don't want to forget that. Just get it.
Okay, all right.
Thanks.
All right, so. We've got. Probably the easiest way to do this, so functionary fiduciary. Now, I found out from coaching through this last year with several of my clients in Florida. That their state law for real estate agents was that they were actually labeled as fiduciary and not, I'm sorry, functionary and not fiduciary in the state of Florida. They wanted them to be transactional. Now, I don't know, and the people I coach don't know where it ended up either, because Florida hasn't made up their mind, whether it's fiduciary or functionary, because when Gary started just last year, I started talking to my clients about it, and they were like, well, we're supposed to be functionary. That's crazy.
Especially with the new
Right.
forms now.
But it was a matter of liability, taking liability off the agent's plate. Because they only served as a functionary. Okay, anyway, so just, I say that because I don't know what all of our background is, functionary versus fiduciary. A functionary relationship is one that's shallow, but it also assumes the least amount of responsibility. You're basically just reporting the facts, the data, the information only. You react to requests, right? So you're acting as a transaction.
You only do something when they ask you to do it.
That's right. And you're focusing on tasks, you tell them, you're selling to them. It's about what you are making, not about what they're making. You are replaceable. This is Gary Keller's thought process. You are very replaceable at that point.
Yeah.
It'd be like walking up to a line at McDonald's when you used to have actual lines at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And you decide which cashier you're gonna go to, right? Or which Kroger checkout line you're gonna get into, but if you utilize them. So they're minimally paid, all right? It's literally like any other job out there, when it doesn't matter, do I pick this line or this line? All right, and that's really the choice you have to make. Those people make the least amount of money, right? So if you walked into a restaurant, for example, and the best server on the planet Earth worked in these 4 tables, wouldn't you wait for one of those 4 tables versus sitting somewhere else?
Does that matter?
That's not the way we think about it, because that's a functionary job. What serving in a restaurant is a functionary job, they're performing tasks, right? So, our industry does have lots of functionary roles, like title or things like that, right? There are,
Transaction coordinator would be somewhat functional.
yeah, and there's an argument like home inspectors, are they functionary or are they fiduciary? Well, technically they're functionary, right? So, because they want to remove all of the liability, they want to assume the least amount of responsibility in the room, right?
Yeah, I just feel like that doesn't fit the job description, it doesn't. I feel like it doesn't cover all of the bases, I feel like it leaves a ton of loose ends.
Yeah.
And like the bigger it widens the margin of error.
Well,
Like,
and I think you're right, because when you try to assume the least amount of responsibility, then you lose trust.
Yeah.
Right? And so, even from our agent standpoint, we don't trust certain people because we see them dodging responsibility. We don't want to work with those folks, right? We want to work with fiduciaries, right? So fiduciary is a relationship, a true relationship. They accept the most amount of responsibility. They interpret and advise on the data and the facts, right? They anticipate the needs. They focus on the outcome and not just the next step, not just the next transaction, right? They educate, they guide. They're irreplaceable, and as Gary Gilbert said, they are the highest paid. Right? So we are fiduciaries. We want to be fiduciaries. All right. Thoughts, questions? This is a real quick section we go through.
The part of this conversation, you talk about agency, made me think of the old days when we were sub-agents. And I don't know if we even want to take the time to go there, but that was really weird.
Yeah.
And I remember when it changed from sub-agency to your,
what was sub-agency?
sub-agency is when basically the buyer's agent was working for the listing agent and the listing agent worked for the client. And so you really, as a buyer's agent, you weren't ever working for that buyer. You were only working as a sub-agent of the listing agent for the seller. Do you remember that, or was that before?
That was before my time.
Was it? Okay. It was weird. I mean, when that started changing. Yeah, because when you're really, I mean, it's come full circle that we're really representing the buyers now more than ever.
Yeah.
But it was, everybody worked for the seller.
Yeah.
And you're helping the buyer, and it felt like you were working for the buyer in day-to-day operations and acting as a fiduciary for them. And they thought you were. Yes. But then that'll.
I'm gonna say, there isn't a specific place in the class for this, but I think this is, talking about fiduciary is the best time to talk about this, right? I have an opinion that I'm gonna share with you, my opinion, Okay, not Kelly's opinion, not anybody else's opinion, it's my opinion. And I had this struggle with my team. This all started in 2021. Okay? We were multiple offers, as you mentioned, almost every single house, right? Even if you priced it wrong, it would sell correct, the market would sell correct, the listing, right? And, I had agents on my team that were losing offers left and right? I would lose offers, right? And it occurred to me, I thought, well, sometimes as a fiduciary, we are doing what we think is in the best interest of the client, right? And that's where we got in trouble, okay? There are two things that I'll just say that every buyer wants from us, right? And those two things are, one, to get us the house, to get the house, and two, get it at the best price. Okay? Do you understand? Do you see where those sometimes are in conflict?
In 2020 and 2023, it was absolutely in conflict.
Yeah.
Because you could not get it at that price. Yeah, you couldn't.
So I interact with agents all the time that were like trying to make the best deal, like get the best value.
Well,
you're just trying to
win a contract.
What's that?
You're just trying to win a contract.
Trying to win a contract on their terms.
Is that best for the client? Because, you know, after that, now, like, when the value was high, now they like paid, you know, they're paying into, like, equity is taking longer to.
As long as they knew about it though, that's, I think for me, I always had to try to explain it. Look, if you really want this house, you're gonna have to pay more.
And then, and then you,
If you pay
no
over,
inspections and.
unless they
all
have
this
to
other
sell
stuff,
it
and
really quick,
No, but you gotta explain to them about it, and then if they decide, at least you're still, I feel like you're still doing your part as their agent, if you fully explain
Yes.
why and how, the things they need to do in order to get the house, if they really want it. But if you tell them that, I feel like you're still being the fiduciary for them,
Yeah.
just might not be the best price, but you're getting them what they want, and they're aware of those things of having to pay them. It's hard though, because it is a little bit of this, because in 2020, nobody was getting deals. I mean, not like the best price or whatever.
best price count was not the key element there.
Yeah,
It was
no,
getting them the
it just
property.
wasn't.
And again.
That I think is the ultimate goal, in the property.
Right.
And you have to, so I think from a fiduciary standpoint. We're charged with, again, the circle of trust, being empathetic, but not being emotional. Right? So we have to be the logical brain for them, because they're making decisions based on emotions. And our fiduciary responsibility is to prevent their emotions from making a mistake. Right? And sometimes that mistake is deciding that now's the time to try to save a buck. But you have to tell them honestly, if you decide that $1,000 is more important than getting the house, I'm okay with that. But I want you to be aware of that is the mistake I think you made. And are you willing to, I think you build trust when you do this, have this conversation with clients. I still think that's the market has time for that necessary conversation. And I'll ask the buyer, I said, look, you hired me for 2 reasons. And they're like, well, what's that? I said, one is never find a house. So yeah. Well, 2, you also hired me to help you get it at the best deal possible, right? And I said, I want you to understand that that's in conflict. What do you mean? They don't understand that, right? I was like, because sometimes the best price that you think it should be at is not the one that gets you the house. So you tell me which one's more important.
Best deal.
And that's where you're their fiduciary.
Right.
That's what we're the fiduciary. We're the fiduciary and we're going to have that level of conversation with them. And tell them, look, I'm gonna protect you from yourself.
And they so appreciate it. I mean, it's not, maybe not what they want to hear, but I think they're always
They
appreciative.
always are grateful for you telling them straight up on
Honest.
something.
Yeah,
The same would be true on the seller side, when you're helping them understand how much to give in this market.
yeah,
Like how much closing costs do I have to get? Well, you can get it, this is what I think you can get, right?
yeah.
So,
And that you're mostly likely, Mr. Seller, to need to compensate the buyer broker that's bringing in buyer. That the one point on, the contradiction of the best price getting the house. I've mentioned is if you knew that person was gonna get that house and pay a little bit too much for it, but they weren't gonna have to turn around and sell it, and get relocated in 2 years or whatever, they were gonna stay. Their staying would absorb the difference that they had to pay to get the
How
property.
are you gonna say it?
That's the question. And if they're gonna be there long enough, that's gonna come out in the wash.
I think, do you find that you turn into a functionary when you have both sides of the agenda?
I think you're required to a degree, that's what the women agency documents all about, right?
That's a good point.
I'd like to,
That is-
I'd like to like hear better language from you on how to, put people at ease. Because that is a real question, like, it is something that we've done many times and that we have really high success rate, people come out of those transactions really happy, but ultimately explaining it to people in a way that really puts them at ease and really lets them know that you're not gonna be. But then that does conflict with the fiduciary, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, here's what I would say to that. Thank you for asking the question. I think it's a difficult question to answer. All right, for bringing this topic up, because limited agency in some states is illegal.
Yep.
Texas illegal, California illegal, all right, it is
It's also, yeah, and it's also called dual agency in some states,
Yeah.
same concept.
Yeah, so, and it's illegal for those reasons, right, because the state says you can't put chest against yourself.
You
Right.
they refer
Our
that
state
person to
allows us
another
to put
agent.
chest against ourselves. So we have to explain to our clients, what does this mean for you? Well, here's what I, as your now functionary, would say, I don't use the word functionary.
right,
But I'll say as your agent would say, is I'm going to give you the advice based on what you told me. You want, okay? So I can't tell you what the other side is doing or thinking. All right, but I can tell you what I think is the right thing for this property and this market. All right, and then I can, it requires us to be fair.
right.
Absolutely,
Right?
which I should be, yeah.
And not fair in the way just to get the deal done, but in a fair way to get the deal done, knowing what each side can give.
Yeah.
All right, it is literally like playing poker, get yourself without showing yourself the holes.
Yeah,
Hang on,
yeah, yeah.
I don't enjoy it.
I enjoy it because there's a little challenge in it. For me, a challenge is fun at this
I
point.
think as long as you set the expectation, I do enjoy it, but I think I'm also really good at setting the expectation.
I only had it once, and I had to schedule both of them in separate coaching because they got so mad at each other.
Oh,
So,
man.
they're not like the agent able to be.
Definitely.
That's when you put your license in referral and you run.
Well, and I think a lot of people with this new buyer's agency, I think there's people out there that still think if they don't have someone representing them. And they call the listing agent, because that's happened to me now twice since June. Where, and I'll ask if they're being represented by anyone. No, I just wanted to call you directly as the listing agent. And well, since I have a team, I always refer them anyway to the buyer's agent on the team, so. That's a little different. I'm not really in that position with an agent on my team to be in that dual situation anymore, but I feel like more and more buyers seem or thinking with this new buyer's agency. Just call the
Right,
listing agent
Sure.
when, and I mean, technically that they can, I get that. But like, as part of my listing agreements, I'm always gonna say, if someone comes to us that's not being represented, I'm still charging X bananas. Because you're still representing two parties
And
at
I'm
that,
doing two sides of the
Yeah.
work.
at that point. Here's my question though, this is the one little caveat. And it's always ridiculous for them to do this, but if a buyer is absolutely hell bent on, I don't need anybody to represent me. No, don't, whatever. And then you damn well know that you're not gonna be able to get it to close because they don't know what they're doing. So then ultimately, you're
Working for
still
free.
kind of stepping in and making sure that the stuff gets done. That's a real struggle for me with some of these people.
The way, it's a struggle for me, and the way I view it is I'm still the fiduciary for myself.
I know.
My goal is to get it closed with the seller.
Correct.
So I'm gonna go, this is the surprise and delight
Yeah.
portion of our presentation.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that is a surprise and delight, knowing how hard you've worked to get the deal done, and the other side didn't want you represented.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, just for everyone's benefit. Do not give that buyer a contract to fill out.
Oh, hell, no, absolutely
That
not.
contract top says only to be used by.
Correct.
Those
They have to come up with their own.
do their own, however, doesn't mean you can't resubmit back to them as a counteroffer your
Your
purchase
documents.
agreement to protect yourself and your seller.
So you're saying don't give that buyer that's not
Purchase
represented a purchase agreement.
Yeah, but you don't.
But that
To initiate
to
from
you,
there.
convert
Yeah,
it to.
then convert it back to our process.
Right, Yeah.
And then ignore the contract they sent?
Well, you're basically countering with a full contract. Whatever they sent you, I'm countering with.
Hour, putting it on our forms and then whatever.
And that's just trick, yourself and the. seller,
It
Right,
doesn't have to be on a phone. Like, I mean,
that's correct.
I just told, but our phones are in River's Edge. A couple weeks ago, and he was a lawyer.
Yep.
And
I
that's
had
like.
an attorney and they are the worst.
Oh, they.
Attorney should not make sure that you should not write it off.
Send me,
There
you're
you go.
gonna send me the purchase contract, like, you're ready for that, I cannot, I'm not.
Well, and
representing
the title
you.
companies don't want to pull up those other contracts either.
Oh, he did his own closing.
Yeah, oh, man.
And then he did his own closing.
And you don't have those
And
clients.
do you have that?
So he had a risk crime, do the title search, pay them to do
But
that.
he did the official.
But he did the official close.
And would you ask that seller, you know, this buyer wants to come unrepresented, there are gonna be a lot of steps that I'm gonna take because I'm serving you to get that transaction put together and carry that buyer's load without them having an agent to do so. Would you consider compensating me further at this level, so many more bananas? I mean, why would we have?
Believe in your value, you can have it.
I mean, that's where my mind goes, is I would say, you know, I'm gonna do this, normally that fee would be this many bananas, I'm willing to do it just for this much banana.
There is there is a no buyer's representation form you can have them sign.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a definite, if you definitely wanna make sure.
But I'm
that
just
that's
thinking of making
signed.
more money for the extra work and asking yourself.
But you know you're gonna be doing this, when you're gonna have some sales disclosure, they have no that base pay disclosure.
We paid for that.
And so now you're. So you end up like walking the FISBO through. Anyways, they have no proper document.
Yeah, you gotta get compensated for your value.
Okay,
Okay, you've created some monsters here.
this is why this class,
It's good though.
Can expand, yeah.
all right, any other thoughts around fiduciary versus functionary? Okay, moving on. All right, now we're gonna get into the seller side of this whole. So, all right, now we're focused on, again, the value model, steps 3, 4, and 5, which is providing core services, deliver client experience, and do it with surprise and delight. All right, so. I forgot this is where I usually say this next part, so.
Yeah.
That to net the most amount of money with the fewest amount of hassles in the least amount of time,
That's for your seller.
that's what you want, and at the end of the day, get the transaction done. All right, sell the house, in this scenario, sell the house, right? So we have to, has anyone ever got mad at the other agent for the offer or for the counter offer or the
I've been
inspection
guilty.
and response?
I've been guilty.
All of it.
We've all got, and I say mad because it's an emotion, right? We've got emotion,
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right? Shame on us.
I know.
Because I do it all the time too, so. There's never been a truer thing when, as an agent. When you get an offer that gives you an emotional response, do not call your clients right away.
Yeah,
It's
correct.
okay to sit on it for just a little bit. To get yourself calmed down and collected and then give them a call.
Proactive instead of reactive.
And just keep in mind that your clients can do the same thing, so don't push them into a response or an answer right away either, because they need time to calm down. In that scenario, right? So.
Yeah, if you're worked up, they're gonna be worked up and you need to bring them.
100%, yeah. I think that's where, again, you lose the trust. All right, that's an opportunity to lose
I would
trust.
say Derek is so good at that. He is like even keel, no matter what, you know, I mean, like, he is so even. I don't care, I've never seen
He's just
that.
positive, he's just really.
Yeah,
I love
locked
it.
in with
That's
it,
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Give
and
it
it's so,
props.
it's such an attract, like an attractive.
I'm surprised he's not on Zoom right now.
No kidding,
Yeah, he's usually up there, and they.
yeah.
Are you there, Derek?
I'm giving it props though.
Sorry.
Yeah, welcome you up there.
Yeah, no doubt.
All
Okay, back to Rob here.
So
Yes.
that is the goal.
Never,
That is
ever.
the goal here.
That's pretty good too.
All right, so core services, so we're gonna break it into 4 sections, right? Consulting to a decision, marketing, the property, negotiating the contract, and then close of sale. Nikki Miller, who used to be the host of the podcast, The One Thing, until she had a baby during the last month or so. She said this, the most powerful words in real estate are, here's what happens next, right? Whatever you tell them today, you're talking to them, you text them, then tell them, great, now we're past this, here's what happens next. here's what happens next. All right, you sign the list, here's what happens next. All right, whether that's something for you to do or something for them to do, here's what happens next, all right? That is about maintaining the trust. Okay. Can't move that anything up. Oh, okay, that's right. So. It's all into a decision. This is your listing presentation, okay? How many of you have a listing presentation? How many of you use that listing presentation when you go into a house? Right, that's way more hands than I have last time. Good job.
Okay.
Okay, so how many of you like to wait it? Sometimes.
Why does that not surprise you?
You know, I used to say this is terrible, that my listing presentation is I show up on time and I look good.
That's still better than a lot of agents though.
That's kind of the same way.
But I think it should be like a little bit of a mix. You have to be willing, you have to come in, like you said, ready for whatever personality type you might be. But then also be willing to be empathetic and also take note of things, mental note of things,
Mhm.
and then apply that into how you speak to somebody. I think that that's just conversation 101.
Maybe that's two of them.
201, maybe, I don't know. It's just
I
like.
think it would make it.
I like my presentation printed out, we can go through it. And I'll look it up.
But you
But
have.
I
to
let
that yourself,
them,
right?
I kind of let them guide a little bit. Because I listened to that, Phil Jones, the very first podcast of Millionaire Groups. I think it might have been last fall, the very first episode.
Yep.
Is Phil Jones. And he's like, everybody's quick to go to like, okay, this is how much I think this is your square footage, and compared to this, it's how much I think, and then we get into the contract conversation.
Yeah.
Instead of getting to know them, especially if you've never met them.
Right.
How did you all buy this house? What, how long you been in there? What made you purchase this
But you're
house?
still guiding, when you're doing that, you're
Right.
still guiding, because you're still trying to dig deeper to understand more about them.
Yeah.
And so we talk about that a lot, I easily let clients sometimes guide me versus actually guiding the client, and so I feel like what you're saying is a perfect example.
Yeah, cause I bring it up, I'm like, no, tell me no, they're like, no, let's walk around the house. I'm like, okay, then that's what we do.
Are you leading your client or is your client leading you? But I think in this case, it depends on that seller. Are they a visual person? Are they an audio person? Are they a C? Are they a D? I think that appointment needs to be measured with those kinds of facts.
Gotta have your.
What that person's gonna look like.
Gotta have your presentation ready for sure.
Every listing you take should go through these 7 steps. Whether they go through in the exact order, I think is up to you and up to your client, okay? But if your presentation, if your process of your system doesn't include these 7 steps, then that's your opportunity to go back and evaluate and rewrite or write your system. Okay? So, and that, again, that's the homework part of this.
I think I would
conversation.
be bold, they said, they talk about somebody doing one big agent, like, he never brings costs. He does it with them at the kitchen table, so then they can see the process of how you get.
So he'll
costs.
pull comps with them.
Sitting at the
home.
laptop.
Yeah.
So I think that's okay to do if you're like, you just have a knack for comps
Yeah.
and you're not subbing me in.
I'll tell you, I don't bring comps because I want to physically see the property and the condition. I've been burned way too many times early in my career by looking up stuff, how many bedrooms, how many baths, what's your square footage, what's the age of your home, blah, blah, blah. And I pull up stuff, then I get there and they got pink shag carpet from 1970 and the disco ball and the
So
whatever.
you, the first appointment, you're the seller, you don't come initially expecting to sign, listen, you're just coming and gathering information.
Oh, I'm expecting them to sign,
Right.
but when I tell them as part of my presentation, I just say, you know what, you may have had some other, cause I'll ask them if they've already met with other realtors, and if they say yes, now, by chance, did they already bring you some comps, to show you the value? How would that look? And I'll ask them, and then I'll just tell them what works for me, and I just say, you know what, I personally don't feel comfortable doing that, and this is why. I personally feel it gives me the better benefit of the doubt to represent you with giving you a better price of what I feel is more of a fair market value.
Having seen the.
And having put eyes on it, that allows me to be able to do so. to be able to get a better fair
Right.
market price.
Yeah.
And it works for me.
I
just don't feel comfortable.
And I did what price on your home, so I.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I just mean.
Probably
That's
at the
different.
time, I don't put price of listing contract, I will put to be determined.
Yeah,
And other conditions that to be determined is 3 days before it goes live.
perfect.
We can do that.
I like that.
I like that, Ron.
I
Yeah.
like that.
And it's probably half the time, because I tell them, I said, do you really want me to know your value for a walk in this store? Because then I'm just comparing you to every other house that's on the street, and that's not fair to you. So would you rather me go back and now, that I've seen your house, or do the research
Yeah.
to give you the best value?
Great language.
So
So perfect.
here's why I made the comment about, I wouldn't do that instead of anything.
Yeah.
Because we have limited data. These systems, this program was written in Austin, Texas, where there's like 1 million people living there, and they have neighborhoods with 2,000 homes in them. If I have to comp a home in that neighborhood, I can comp.
Got all kinds of data. Got all kinds of data.
I got all kinds of-
Down the street, yeah.
And in this market, when we're only selling about 3.8 million homes, I have to go back at least 365 days to hope to find
Absolutely.
enough data.
And
Yeah.
so we'll
And
be
enough
great.
data, meaning at least 3 homes I can compare it to,
Yeah.
right? Hopefully I can find 5 to 10.
Yeah.
That are all active pending or so, not just one of each, right? So when I tell a client that I'm gonna do research, I think I'm pretty good at comps. But I'll be honest, in this market,
Challenge.
because of the lack of data, I can make a house price whatever I think it might be priced at, because it's all over the place, right? I'll see one house that sells at 250, that's 1,500 square foot, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. And go a mile down the road, and now it's 275. Well, what's the difference? Is it just the neighborhood? You don't know until you go out and do the research, right? And that's $25,000 of value for the seller that I can leave on the table. And I don't want to leave that to chance, because the appraisers, more times than not, will make it work because they have the same challenges.
Yeah.
They can make the data sing whatever song they want to sing.
Because they're not finding them any easier than we're finding them.
So
And then, and good luck with the A-frame and board.
Yeah. Yeah, for the berm,
Or the berm, yeah.
or the log, all of those.
Yeah.
Or the
Or
farm with 10 acres or whatever, it's in Pekin.
Amen, all of the above.
I'm just gonna search all 9 counties I have.
Oh, you know.
Yeah, you go further out in district, you go further back in time. You have to just open your parameters up to find those comps.
Yeah.
Far more than what appraisers ever taught us to do.
Because they only really come to it in about 6 months.
That's right, they want to only go
They-
6 months, and they
I've
want
seen
such a radius.
appraisals this year, for the last 6 months, that were using comps that were 13 and 14 months old.
Yeah, because that's all you have to do.
Underwriters are still allowed, they allowing that?
They have to.
I think they understand more than anybody, underwriters understand the numbers game
Yeah.
and the challenges of the data.
They have to just put it up.
But again, if I'm in Chicago, if I'm in, even if I'm in Louisville to a degree, there's a lot more homes that are sold to use as comps.
Luckily, I
Just the
had a
numbers.
first
Just
burn home listing, 17 acres in Orangeburg. And I don't need your wrong.
I like that.
I said, go order. Listing, you know.
I'm talking about that, I've done that.
I can't
Say, like I said, you all, I say to them, like, in Indiana, there's just limited data, so I have to really go research this, and I am. But I mean, 2021, I could do comps in 10 minutes. For any, almost every house, now it's like an hour,
Yeah,
for a lot of properties, it's not in a neighborhood.
Yeah, and sometimes if we say, okay, let's go ahead and get an appraisal up front, so we make sure our pricing 3 days before we go live is accurate, and we've done the research. I've offered, why don't we at closing, we'll split that appraisal, I'll pay half and you pay half.
that makes sense.
That's cool.
I have a question.
Yeah, I think you said that, whatever.
On your opinion, with, just kind of going a little bit, do you think that house prices with the open hours element saying that first time home buyers could not afford to get a house because, this, the bananas was too much, right? Do you think now it's even the house prices will rise because people are rolling in their bananas into their mortgage?
I think ultimately, it's more about supply and demand than it is about that.
Okay.
So I think home prices this year, nationally, will be flat. I think locally, we'll probably see another 4 or 5% increase. Right?
Cause I think we're behind.
I think it's more about
And
interest rates than it is about the commission.
And you said 4 or 5%, what's that number? I kind of checked.
That we're, you will
Price increase this year.
Okay, okay.
It's already changed. It's already changed compared to, what we had in December.
Yeah,
So our people are gonna see
Just
some decent appreciation values right now, that is one good.
I think we're low for, right, this area is low still. Like, so where I'm in St. Pete, so they're in Northern Kentucky, and they're like, your prices are like low, like. You know, so their equity growth here is still consistently, even though the rest of the country is kind of flatlining.
Those
Right.
appreciation factors tend to be higher percentages when you're starting lower.
so I think also what we hear in the news is all about California, Florida, without them saying it. It's New York, Texas, California, Florida. And when they say the prices are down 1 or 2% over last year, which is what they're saying, they're talking about population as a whole, which is centered in those 4 states.
Right.
A lot of data coming out.
And so it doesn't affect the Midwest unless you're in Chicago.
Yeah.
Never forget that, right? We didn't go up as much as they did back in 2021, and we definitely haven't gone down. We haven't gone down at all, actually. If you look at the whole numbers, we continue to go up. It just gets slower.
Our area's always been like that, even since
We're
I've been
insulated from
here.
the high highs and low lows. We kind of just.
Steady, we've been real
Yeah.
steady.
Yeah.
We didn't have.
It's a more predictable business.
Yeah.
Right?
I was just curious because it's still going in for $4,000 bananas to pay your agent, and now that house goes to 254, and it was at 250 out.
I think if buyers are always gonna be going to finance something. And I don't think that's changed from any time in the last 7.5 years I've been doing this. Because when they keep more money in their pocket, they're going to.
Yeah.
So as long as the lender and the appraisal will align with that, it's gonna happen. And will it happen, does that mean? Does that mean we can price homes higher because I just sold a house for 310 instead of 300 because I was able to pay $10,000 towards closing costs and buyer's service commission in the contract price? Well, yeah, that's gonna happen. And the appraiser's not gonna know that. They can see that it has concessions, right? $10,000, whatever what it is. I suspect good appraisers are gonna call us or ask us what that is.
What's that extra?
I've had a little bit of that, but the average appraiser is not
It's
gonna be
gonna go
calling us. They're just gonna do the shortcut and try to get their. Yeah, so,
229, just a minute.
okay. thanks.
Down below.
All right, so questions on this? Are you comfortable and confident with your process? If you're not, now's the chance, because this is part of your value, all right? This is a big part of your value. And understanding your process for doing this. Okay. So the next stage is marketing the property, all right? So you gotta get ready, you gotta get the product ready, which is giving them your advice on staging, on decluttering. By the way, don't use the word clutter when you're talking about someone's possessions they've had for 30 years. They don't like that,
No.
right? It's not clutter to them. Although they say the word clutter, still don't use the word clutter.
So
Use the word-
depersonalized. would
The
be
better
more
word is
generic.
stuff. You got a lot of stuff. All right. Not a lot of clutter.
The stuff can be negative or.
I try to say maybe when like. Take down some stuff so then they can envision themselves living there.
I tell them like best case scenario, it looks like a hotel room when you walk in, right?
Yeah, magazine
Everything's
ready.
put up.
That's a phrase I use, is we want it magazine ready.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, create your marketing plan and assets. So whether you're doing photos, video, drone shots, whatever you might be doing, having a listing binder. Does anybody do a listing binder anymore for the house?
Only on high-end properties,
High-end properties, okay.
and that's just more to make the seller happy.
A lot of the steps are to make
Absolutely.
the seller happy, that they don't
You
do
just
anything.
try to big over backwards, hey, look up.
I do like sometimes when I walk in, there's a map on the table, if it's like got some acreage or whatever.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm generally prepared to do that unless it's a last minute thing. My client's like, oh, this house just popped up. I was like, well, I'm not going to the office, so.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then run your marketing plan, right? I mean, that's our job, right? Promote coming soon, which we can certainly do 24 hours here in 2 weeks if you're a rural agent. right?
Was
which
that
is
the
nice.
difference on those timelines? Cause I wasn't sure. 24 hours in Southern Indiana?
Yeah,
You can-
24 hours business. So like I can list a house on a Monday, I can put the sign in the yard on Friday, because Saturday and Sunday don't count. And
Okay,
I've confirmed this with Linda.
okay.
And you're saying you can put a sign in the yard for coming?
Friday. Yep. 24 hours goes by, with the sign there.
And does,
Advertise it, Facebook.
and does the sign have to say coming soon, or it can be your yard sign?
Just right in the yards.
24
But
hours.
we do a lot of Monday listings, so we can start on Friday.
It's a good idea.
Or even a holiday, right?
Good idea.
So think I was gonna go to the bathroom.
And in Louisville, it's 2 weeks.
See, I didn't know the 2 weeks of Louisville.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure.
yeah,
2 weeks?
yeah,
That coming soon really is a big
2
function in their market event.
yeah.
It changes.
I think most agents still don't use it, but you can put it in there, you can put a listing in there, coming soon. So the agents can see it for 2 weeks. I don't think the clients can see it.
This is on Facebook?
No, this is on MLS, over global, you can use Guar to post coming soon. Now, over here, you can't post coming soon on the MLS. You can only do it, sign the yard. and
Social media. Now, the 2 weeks in Louisville, we can't do social media though there for the 2 weeks. It's only MLS. That's what I. Okay.
That's a good question. I don't know,
Is it 2 weeks in Indiana on social media? So it's
24 hours.
Doug is 24 hours.
24 business.
Business, so you know.
So you put a sign on there Friday and you're on holiday Monday, it's,
You
don't go
know,
live
Tuesday, you got an extra day to create some, what's called urgencies and
Yeah.
enthusiasm around it,
Yeah,
so.
activity done.
Okay.
Activity done. Exactly.
All right, so marketing, we're all marketing experts, right? This ain't a marketing class, so we're not gonna spend any more time on this one. Other than the homework would be, if your marketing plan is not, if you don't have a marketing plan, you should have a marketing plan. All right, and then you should know to execute it once you get the listing.
Another way to prove your.
I see a lot of agents that say they have a marketing plan, and all they do is put the sign on the yard and MLS, and they don't ever actually market the house.
Or you do.
They don't do open houses. You know, I've had
Sure.
listings, I'm sure you all have had situations where I go in and they're like, well, they told me they were doing open houses, but every single one of them. Or they did one at the beginning, then they wanted to charge me to do open houses.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's a model for some people. Like, and Gary talks about that in his class too, about having options, right? Like, I will list it at this price to do this, and list at this price and do this, and do this, and do this.
I don't like
Change
those.
it to my banana charge.
Yeah, that's an all part. Those are the 1% listing.
Well, like you could say, I'll do this much for
7%.
7%, I'll do
Bananas,
for
6
6.
bananas.
Exactly.
Okay.
We used to do that, right? We used to do that.
Just
And then you get everybody at the top
Let's
tier.
carry your house, 7%, we'll clean out your house, raise your percent.
Because not everybody expects the same type of service, the same level of service, you know, some people are okay, or wants, yeah, some people might be okay with it, comes with the 5%. Right, right.
That is.
Okay, we're gonna move on. So the next one,
Yeah, we did that other one.
Yeah.
Because you gotta pay it.
is negotiating your contract. All right, so I think I talked about this earlier, like just presenting offers. I said what I do, which is I'm going to go through with them in line by line, over the phone, and then text in the details, right? That's just a process in your system. Angie on my team has an actual like Excel spreadsheet, and she fills out everything on there and sends it to them, like either a screenshot or an actual email. All right, some of my clients want me to redo the estimated net seller sheet with the offer that's in hand and send it to them. We're flexible, but know that you can't just tell them. Cause you know, you tell them and how often are they with paper and pen writing things down? Sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're not. And they don't remember almost anything you tell them. Because this is foreign to them. It's like a foreign, when I learned real estate, I thought, well, this is a foreign language. That's what it is to our clients, right? It's a foreign language.
And they don't want to think.
They
They're too
don't,
busy in their
That's why
lives
they hire
to
us.
think, yeah.
right? So present the offer, all right? And as a fiduciary, you're gonna identify the pros and cons of the offer, you're gonna review the pre-qualification of the buyer. How many people call the lender? You call the lender?
I do.
Unless it's somebody that I know that's crap. You know.
Yeah, I have some lenders that I don't necessarily need to call, but there are definitely lenders I can call.
Yeah,
Good luck on Rocket Mortgage.
yeah,
So,
exactly. They're one of the list.
now that was more of a thing, I think, in 2021 and 2022 as it started to change. Because you get 14 offers, and a lot of these offers, they weren't all the same,
Correct.
right? So,
Pre-qual, pre-approval. So do you call them?
when I need to, when I feel it's prudent to call a lender, when I don't know the lender.
Yeah.
Or that I don't know the agent. Right, because I get agents that haven't really pre-qualified their buyer. You know, Gary Keller in the original class that we talked about, Value Story last March, he actually said this. At least I don't know if you remember this or not, but really, back in he said in the 80s and 90s, the agent actually qualified the buyer, not the lender. The lender did not qualify the buyer. There was no
There was no credit scores back then.
And so you had to know, yes, you had to know,
Yeah,
you sit down in your participation, well, how much do you make? What are
you
your
did their
monthly
debt to
expenses?
income ratios, you
Yeah,
got all their
you had
debt.
to do all that out for them.
You
You tell them
verify
what they
it.
paid for, they could afford.
That's great.
Yeah.
You literally qualified them as the agent.
That's exactly what we did.
And he said, and I think he's right, they made us better agents. Because we could better represent the client when we knew what the finances were. Now,
We don't wanna know how.
we don't.
Yeah.
I don't
I
wanna.
wasn't gonna say that.
I want a green light on a number and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
Really.
Yeah, call the lender,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And
And here's the one I want you to call, and don't call them. And I tell people, I know we're getting off tangent, but I tell people that, you know, banks should do banking and mortgage companies do mortgages, and that's really what we've found to be the best.
yes, unless it's required that the bank does it.
And then we'll work with whatever you need to do.
I
But
So,
agree.
yeah, banks should.
okay.
do mortgages.
so present the offer and get all the facts before you present the offer. I don't think it's good to present an offer when you don't have all the facts, right?
Motivations and such.
So use your judgment there, all right? And again, that may depend on the agent you're working with. Well, I'm not gonna have pre-approval letter tomorrow. Well, I don't like presenting offers without pre-approval letter, but you could do that. You just gotta tell your clients, I don't have the pre-approval letter yet. Right?
So this company,
Right? So negotiate the contract, obviously price, terms, again, the goal is to help them sell the house. Don't forget that part, but that's not on the list here. In
That's a
negotiation.
good point, though.
Right.
Number 6.
Yeah. So, again, their goal, as painful as it might be for them, they still need to sell the house. All right? So keep that in mind. I know that's a hard thing, we like to win. All right, but it's a win for us, it's a win for them, it's a win for the buyers, it's a win for the other agent. That's Keller Williams, right? Win-win, win-win.
and I think it.
Win-win or no.
No deal. I think people pleasing can be your enemy here. If you're a people.
Tell them what they want to hear. versus what you-
You want them to like you, you want them to trust you, think you're doing a good job. So you kind of sugarcoat it, or you tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah.
And that's when your buyers leave you and your sellers leave you, and then you lose trust ultimately.
Okay. All right, so we good here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so. Let's see. I have the highlight there, so. I think we'll fix that. So I would say the homework part of this is, what is your process? If it is to go to the kitchen table every time, Rebecca, and sit down with them, great.
Whatever.
Then what happens if you can't do that, right? What happens if there's a foot of stone on the ground and you can't get out of the house? I don't know, right? Or you're in Florida or South Carolina or wherever else, and you can't be there at the table. You're gonna someone else do it for you, or do you have a process over the phone, right? You know, in the last month, I've driven at 8 o'clock at night to Oregon to help an 82-year-old client sign a contract because she couldn't get her email,
Sure,
right?
yeah, I'm
So-
older, and people that I do business with are older.
Yeah.
So that's a whole perspective that I keep in mind. And, because those people, they're not savvy, they don't really want to be savvy, they want you to do it, and so you do it. I used to joke.
And that's an opportunity for surprise.
In your life.
For sure, absolutely, yeah.
So,
But the
Because
younger people, I mean, get it online, send it over, email it.
They don't even review it. They sign it 2 seconds after they get it.
Electronic signature, yeah.
they're only concerned about not reading it, but about how do I push the buttons to make it go,
Yeah.
right? So,
That's absolutely right.
all right, so the final stage is closing the sale, coordinate with the title attorney. The review the closing package with the seller, prepare the seller to actually move, like inform the seller that they have to be out on whichever day you agree upon. Don't let it be a surprise. All right, everyone knows, just for clarity, everyone knows that the contract on the date on the contract is the earliest date unless both parties agree to close earlier,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I've had agents recently try to like push their way, like, no, we can close earlier or something like that. And that's not the case
Yeah.
unless both parties agree to it.
Correct.
Like I'm working with Brenda right now and you've been awesome, by the way. And we both understand it, right? We rather close early, that's fantastic. I had one agent, like, she was like, we're gonna release the deal. And I was like, you're not gonna release the deal. All right, I promise, we'll talk to your broker,
Yeah.
all right? Anyway, that's a.
So,
In Louisville though, they put 30 to 45 days, they don't really put a date.
That's always been the
Yeah.
window.
And
And
I
I
like
like
that. Even though you guys were gonna schedule it.
You
for this
can put a date in there too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You don't have to put that range. I hate when you put that range in there.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to make.
Because you know what a lender can do, they're gonna shoot for the 45 days.
Oh, yeah, it's like every bit. I feel like it just creates more room for people to just drag ass.
More
at the
unknown.
end of the day.
It's so true though.
No, but I mean, I'm serious. People just take their time. They don't get places.
No,
I mean,
they
things get done. wrong.
prioritize it based on the deadline you give, absolutely.
Absolutely.
We sometimes would put, such and such a date or within so many days of loan approval to close.
That leaves a-
But then we had it happen where these people still wanted the house and we went through the fourth lender.
Yeah, I don't
And
even
we
like
were
that.
stuck holding that contract open because they said so many days. So with the new construction, we do this date or within 7 days of completion of the home. And then it's tied to our function and our deadline, where we're at, not waiting for the 10th lender to figure it out.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
work part just made it more.
You did, and you gotta be careful with it.
Yeah.
Tie it to loan approval, you're dragging.
Giving it.
Just protect yourself, this last one here, close, verify funding, conduct a key exchange. There's been a lot more out of town buyers and sellers here recently. So make sure that the closing has funded before key is exchanged.
Yes.
We had a property in Louisville last year that they exchanged keys. We didn't do it, but the buyer and seller exchanged keys and it hadn't funded. And it was an issue with the bank. It took 4 days to fund and it resulted in a lawsuit.
You can't, because people are then tenants in a way, and they have legal rights because they're there, you can't get them in.
So,
If it hadn't funded, it'd been even way worse, right?
yeah, so just always
Yeah.
make sure it funds before you do the keys.
And I might throw out something real quick, just for the people that are in here too, and Rob, I don't know if you've seen this yet. Within the past, I'm gonna say 2 months, I have gotten 2 different people that have sent me either emails or the WhatsApp has been a big thing, and that's something else. So I'm getting more and more people that I've gotten, these 2 specifically. I've got this vacant land in Louisville, I need to hurry up and get it sold. Can you get it sold for me? What can you price it at? And they were just real pushy, like quick, I own it free and clear. Well, that was one, but this one, the guy sent me an email and he was responsive via email, just not by cell phone, because I would try to text him and call, so he would email me. And I was like, and I just didn't, you just don't have a good feeling about it, because I was asking questions and he would kind of answer it, but it just didn't, something didn't seem right. So then I asked him, I was like, well, and I, talked about the Patriot Act, and I was like, well, if you send me a copy of your driver's license, I said, my office requires this in order for me to take a listing because the title company's gonna need it. Well, he responded, oh, okay, yeah, I'll get that to you. Here we are a week later, and I emailed him yesterday, hey, did you send that copy of your driver's license? Because I haven't gotten it yet. Crickets. So more people, I think, are trying to scam with these vacant land or whatever. So just be on the lookout, because that's happened twice in like 2 months.
It is huge in California. that kind of stuff and scams and, I mean, out there, it's just like.
They were, on Facebook, I think, what you do, they were, saying about, title company that was, doing, like, Zoom call with the seller before putting everything in place, and they find out that it was an AI, person.
See?
When they took the pictures, like they scan you and got your, all your documents and everything else, and actually they put you on a video,
Oh,
like you are, so.
It's,
That you are.
that's the kind of stuff that I don't like about AI. That's
Yeah,
such a-
but then they find out actually the title company, when she was talking and asking questions, she saw that there were not like some kind of movements and all that. And so she was like, hey, the algorithm is not working out. Can you raise your right hand? if
That's
you're
what you started to
listening?"
figure it out.
They figured it out that it was.
It wasn't a real.
Interesting.
Gotta really know to feel
Like,
that.
That's a new level of
Yeah.
perception there, that's crazy.
It was a scam, so I was like, oh.
Well, I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't either, but it's coming.
Are any of us real right now?
We're in the matrix. We are in the matrix right now.
Friendships, there you go.
All right,
We're taking a lot of your time, Rob.
yeah.
But it's really been good to be in a class together with.
All right, so then there's the seller experience, how we do it. All right. The seller client experience is the impression formed through every interaction from getting the listing agreement to the close of sale. Client experience is made up of 3 ingredients. All right, it's how you appear, it's how you act, and it's how you communicate and interact. Right? Professional, right? To me, that is all 3 of those are defined professional,
Absolutely.
right?
That's
So-
Lisa's listing presentation.
Yeah, it pretty much sums it right up.
I got a
She's
good
on
joke
top,
ready,
I look good.
you know, got some good material ready to lay down.
Well, I think it also, okay, remember, empathy starts with being authentic. All right, if you're not authentic, if you're not who you really are, when you show up, you're never gonna build trust, and it's just like,
You can see it.
they can see it every time.
Yeah.
So,
Joke
if the
about
joke
that.
is how you start appointments, and you should do that. every
I
time.
joke about that, but I do use quite a bit of levity. I use the
Yeah,
tools and I know what I'm doing, but I am authentic and I am a goofball.
You are, but that's you.
And I think it disarms people a little bit, you
It
know.
does. It makes them relax a little
It's
bit.
Sudden.
please.
You're not
At
on
ease.
opposite sides of the fence. You're like, you're there, you're kind of hanging out, people around, but let's get down.
Yeah.
So,
You wanna make it friendly, but not their friend,
yeah,
all right, let's be
but
clear.
people need to like you.
Yeah, so, okay. All right, so the agent, this is the extra things that you can do because the goal is reviews, ratings, referrals. The agent delivers the best experience and builds surprise and delight into those experiences. I like how they say this because a lot of times what I said earlier contradicts it a little bit, like you take opportunity to do extra things. But what Gary clearly said is you build those opportunities into it. You create opportunities. You don't wait for them to happen. Okay? I would say that this is something that I don't do very well. I'm good at on the fly doing something extra. But I'm not good at thinking about the creativity necessary to build those into it that are truly a surprise and delight. All right? Does anybody have anything that they do that's like a surprise and delight that you're willing to share?
That's a tough one.
We do closing gifts,
Oh, yeah.
we do closing gifts, and then also, I don't know if it would be considered surprise and delight, but I typically offer to all of my sellers, like, if there's things that you have wanted to do to your home or you're ready to list it, I know that there's a lot of people out there offering maintenance work right now, at really high prices. I'd be willing to do it at a very discounted rate. But and sometimes in some cases, I mean, for like a little old lady, I come over and just do it for free, just because it's number one, it's on listing but just like, yeah, helping them get the home look as good as it can. I think that is a surprise and delight. I think it's something.
And you've been paid out of their proceeds.
It can go that way, like if they don't have if it's a big enough job and they don't have the cash up front to pay me, then we can totally work it into the contract where it's paid out of the proceeds at closing.
I think this is my opinion on this, It's easier for us to do surprise and delight after the closing. Because they don't put nothing after the closing. And yet, we're all working to a really high standard during the process. It's hard to do extra when you're already feel like you're doing whatever you can do.
Yeah.
Right?
Less
So,
expected then.
I've heard of agents like, calling, and ordering food, pizza, or something like that,
Yeah.
when they're moving,
That's cute.
right?
Yeah, I've done that.
That is a surprise in their life.
Yeah.
Right? That gives me goosebumps to think of doing something like that, especially for. Or just showing up,
Our team owns a movie truck.
yeah,
Whoever
That's
needs
great.
it,
That's cool.
for that, and then, I haven't done it, but I heard this guy's like, I put it in a task, maybe in command, like, on their year anniversary, I send them an air filter, because people don't think I need to change.
that's a surprise in their life.
Yeah.
That's cute, that's
Good
cute.
one.
Try that now.
Yeah,
Send the air filter.
As simple as it sounds, I think handwritten notes are often surprising.
Yeah,
Like that,
There you go.
and that's a
And you
simple,
can do that during a transaction, it wouldn't be expensive.
right, at any time, yeah.
Like, especially when you get somebody in a contract and you just say, congratulations, here's a gift card to Starbucks, go celebrate your new contract or whatever. Then you're gonna get a gift card, probably just the note itself
Yeah.
can be a surprise.
Yeah.
I've sent over a picnic basket of food with a bottle of wine and an air mattress for their first night.
Yeah,
You could do that.
see, that was,
That was
alright, so this is where we sit down and actually think. about
brainstorm.
what we did. The creativity takes one to surprise them all, because that's a hard one to do, right?
Yeah.
All right, but that's the goal here, is because if you want that 5-star review, you have to do something memorable. Right? So, I mean, yes, they can give you a 5-star for doing your job. The man guarantees that 5-star and that return business, they'll remember your name,
They'll be talking about you.
yes.
At a cocktail party.
One of the things that made the biggest impression on me about you was when the team went, you had a seller,
Yes.
you had a seller in New Albany.
Yeah.
And we
It was
all.
Randolph, and Clarksville, Old Clarksville.
Loaded their truck.
The same.
And drove it out to, I can't remember
Surprised
where
that
it was now,
Yeah,
Wow.
and unloaded it.
Yeah. And I've helped him twice since then, because he hasn't passed away. The reason why we helped, because he had pneumonia, and he was already in there, so he couldn't lift anything.
Yeah, so.
And I got the whole team, we used to do 1 day a month community service, and we made that our community service. It was called folks moving.
that's a win-win.
Yeah, I remember that day, thank you, Ken. That was back in 2019.
well, that comes back to being your authentic self,
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Like-
the problem, yeah.
because
We're gonna
if
go
you're
with
pushing
that.
yourself to do it, you're not really that person to begin with.
Well, I learned a backhoe to get the septic once, I've done some pretty
That's a.
crazy things, I've stood on top of a
Did
of
Todd
an
go
awning
for you?
and windows for a VA longer pass.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the hottest day of the year. I cleaned out snake skins from an attic and it was 104 degrees in the attic. Those are definitely surprises in life, but you can, again, that's me being responsive. But this is talking about building it into your plan, right? Like you can build in note cards. All right, or a specialized closing gift, not just a, I always call it standard closing gift. But something different, but yeah, you're right. That I can do, I struggle with this part. Right, but you give me some ideas, you've all given me some ideas, I appreciate that, so.
You said, some of the things you said made me think, one time I was selling a church in downtown Jet, and they had bats and rebel free. And they were an Indiana species of brown, protected species of the brown bat. And so we did what we were gonna do, and the sellers came in, they're like, they were gone. It's like, okay, guys, there's two investors that own the church, and they said, the bats went away, and we're all like, okay, the bats.
Somebody got a very-
Relocated. Yeah.
A room in a bag.
Yeah, I didn't know what they did with those bats. Sorry, all right, bye, Tim. Bye, Tim.
Sorry, I have to go pick up the kid.
What's that?
I hate to leave.
Bye, Teal.
I do.
And you got 3 pages, so we better shut up.
Okay.
That's
Here we go.
Okay.
All right, seller menu of services, bundling versus unbundling, I covered this earlier. So the bundling is, this is what I charge to list you,
Yeah,
right? And you, that's your number, that's your number, Banana, so we have accept that. This is what you charge, this is what your value is, okay?
Great as always, Rob.
Thank you very much.
Later, lady.
Appreciate it. Unbundling of prices, unbundling the pricing is, I charge this, if I bring a buyer, I charge this. If you bring the buyer, now, see, that's one thing maybe that we need to think about on the new contracts for Indiana, right? We're gonna charge X number of bananas, and if the buyer comes in, I represent it, I'm gonna charge this much,
You build it in upfront.
Absolutely,
And this is
Build
at the
it in.
time of listing.
correct,
right? So that's one way to think about that.
Do we have a-
because that's what I did.
But there is no place
Public
for that.
conditions. Public
Oh,
conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be careful, remember, you're not an attorney, so I usually just try to copy the language that's already in there and add in the situation.
But I think it's legit if we're having a conversation, they know what it's for, what you're
Right,
negotiating.
right. But this was, when this class first came out last year, this was before the settlement,
Yeah,
this was a big topic. What are they gonna do, right?
yeah,
And they said, everyone's gonna start unbundling, and that hasn't happened. Nobody out coaching it has done it.
I'm glad though. I
Right.
think it makes them.
I'm glad too. Well, I think we were worried about Zillow and how they would do this, right?
Yeah.
If they were doing that week, 1 week of showing or 1 day showing agreement, which you're still doing that. So, all right. Cooperative compensation. The premise of cooperative compensation is an arrangement between a listing broker and the seller to incentivize cooperating brokers to write offers and to reward an accepted offer on their property. If offered, cooperative compensation would be paid by the listing broker or the seller. All right,
So,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as part of the verbiage in our now contracts, which we know that this was before.
Yeah.
All of those changes, with how it's worded in our listing contract, it's still technically the seller, it's not either the listing broker or the seller.
Yeah,
I mean, I get they're paying.
so so the way I view this is, if
Okay.
it was the listing broker paying it, that means you're gonna collect, I'm just gonna say 6 bananas. So that you could then, out of your commission, pay
Very
the
many.
other agent, right?
Yeah,
That's not how we're doing it,
correct.
right? But that's what it refers to, because last year, there was 2 different forms, a broker compensation and a seller compensation form.
Yes,
And for a while, we were saying, let's fill out both. That, and Bob Murphy informed me of this, but that's not right. Because you're basically telling both the seller and the broker that you both have to pay the buyer's agent by signing that form.
yeah.
We don't want to do that.
They just got
We just
really,
didn't understand it. We weren't taking the time to read it word for word.
they got freaked out, I think, and they tried to move too fast on putting documents together to try to cover their butt, like they're, and it's something was on fire.
It was
And
confusing,
it just wasn't a good
So-
situation.
but just understand that the listing broker and the seller both better not pay offer the compensation. It's one or the other. And if you, as the listing broker, are gonna offer, which means Keller Williams, then you better be collecting it from the seller. Okay? All right, I think it's cleaner just the way it is now, just the seller. So. All right. So this is, we're gonna end here, because I think this is one of the most valuable things that maybe should be in all of our listing presentations if we have an objection, because again, we should still have a conversation in listing agreement about offering cooperative compensation. Do you agree? Right? Because we don't want to be the only one who's not doing it. All right, so these 13 items on here. Yeah, 13 items, we're gonna go through these and just see. So the seller, so this is 13 reasons why the seller wants a buyer represented by a professional real estate agent. The seller and the listing agent will work with the buyer's agent. Who has been fingerprinted undergone background checks. Well, we've all done background checks in Indiana. I think in Kentucky, you actually do. Did they fingerprint you still? Or just a background check?
Well, not when they first start working with someone. Is that what this is referring to?
No, they're saying the agent has gone through a background process.
To get their. Oh,
Yes.
oh, okay.
This is why we want a buyer's agent.
I see.
A
That
buyer
buyer's
represented
agent.
by an agent.
Okay.
So
I
the
don't
buyer
think
is.
that-
Fingerprints taken.
I don't remember ever giving our fingerprints or anything.
Kentucky.
Indy,
I know in Indiana you don't, but in
Yeah.
Kentucky, I
I
thought
don't think it's like.
at one point they were doing like higher level background.
Did they sign up?
That was 26 years ago,
Well,
probably
I mean,
not.
it's just-
I wasn't a criminal till at least 24.
That's right.
Well, when you sign up to get your license in Indiana, you know, you can't have a felony, there are certain rules, right?
Correct.
They've done a background check. And you consented to it when you signed up for your license.
Yeah, the basic at the start.
Yeah,
Sure.
so I think when we have to re-up our license every few years in Indiana, they ask if we've had any of these
Yeah.
infractions, right? Because they're gonna run another background check on to make sure it's true. All right, number 2, the buyer's agent will serve as an intermediary, which gives the seller the best chance at reaching an agreement and closing, right? Someone to calm the seller or the buyer down when the buyer is not acting rationally. And that's how I'll say it. So the buyer's agent can work with the listing agent to problem solve and help bridge differences between the clients that could otherwise derail a positive transaction. Number 3, the buyer's agent will work to safeguard the seller's home during showings. That's also true, right? Number 4, the buyer's agent will work to ensure that the buyer is qualified to purchase the home. True. Number 5, the buyer's agent will work to ensure that the buyer has the cash available for down payment and closing costs. Hopefully, that's true. Number 6, the buyer's agent can provide feedback to the seller regarding price and condition that will help sell the home. True. Number 7, where available, the buyer's agent will use promulgated forms that protect all parties. Those are Indiana contracts, right? If the buyer can't use those contracts, that makes negotiations a little difficult. All right. Number 8, the seller and listing agent will work with the buyer's agent who has agreed to a code of ethics. Number 9, the buyer's agent is highly likely to be properly insured, which protects all parties. Number 10, the buyer's agent will advise the buyer to write an offer that reflects current market conditions. Number 11, buyer's agent will provide a list of the best professional vendors to choose from to keep the transaction running smooth as possible. Buyer's agent will guide the buyer through all steps from the inspection to closing. And number 13, the buyer's agent will work tirelessly to ensure that the buyer maintains their credit worthiness. Don't open that line of credit, don't buy that new furniture yet, don't buy that new appliance yet, don't buy that car, don't quit your job, don't retire.
That whole list. That whole list.
Until they arrive for the closing and transaction.
This is a good piece to tell buyers that you're gonna represent them, this is what I do for you on this buyer representation. I mean, that's a sales tool to help a buyer with as much as it is to tell a seller to compensate that.
Those slides are a part, those 13 things are a part of my listing packet now. I printed it as
Yes.
part of my listing packet.
Yes, we printed it and we laminated it.
That's critical.
Because it's an easy way for us to be able to show why we need to pay as part of that conversation, bananas.
Yeah.
More bananas. All of us, this year.
All right, we're gonna stop there.
All right.
You take a
Thank
time.
you. You needed like recoup after this.
This was not the group that you needed to like, we're gonna try to get through all this in 90 minutes or 2 hours, I'm looking around.
Tell Bo that he owes you thanks for making all of us better.
They are, I mean,
It's nice that you learn and you're enjoying it.
Thank you.
So thanks for that. Yeah, awesome. I was gonna ask you, there was something and I said we need to come back to it.
New construction.
New construction, yeah.
Fire.
Like, we have people coming over house and we're dealing with them as agents for the seller
Yeah,
when we're there. And then they want to see us or come back a second time to that new construction.
Yeah.
They're coming back out to see that same builder's properties. Are you still working for the seller?
sure, we tell.
Because they're coming to see your new
I
construction.
would try to get work with me.
Isn't that good to see you, lady?
But they're still definitely work.
And if I can go on that to where they're getting to know us and trust us. And then we're just, they're not real comfortable stepping out of that. We just do, let's work together for 90 days or do a time frame.
Yeah.
Do it, try to get 6 months in Southern Indiana as our 2 base terms. But
What do you put for the parameters of specific property that buyer executes? What's your language?
I do usually like Clark County or whatever.
So you specify counties?
I like counties. Or I'll do like 30 minutes, like Louisville.
Okay. I got you. Okay, yeah. We,
That always seems to.
I don't, not to say that if somebody wanted to buy a home in Indianapolis, I'm not gonna try to sell it to them or close on something in Indianapolis. I mean,
Conversation, we didn't actually.
yeah,
yeah,
so.
would you ask for a referral and send that over and they sign by a broker?
Sure.
Yeah, we can turn that into a referral,
Yeah.
fee coming back to you. Do you do, 6 months of time?
I think 12 months on fire insurance.
You do, okay.
So that's a long process, make sure you find the right. There anybody not signed it.
So you have
Yeah, maybe
6 months left, and
And
we'll
then
visit
six
each
months,
other.
yeah, you, 12 months.
Great information. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Brenda, Rebecca, good to see you guys. You know.
Valuable wisdom.
Not necessarily a title I like, valuable wisdom sounds better than. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. Always pretty good people.
Yeah, nightmare. It's like, one of my clients decided to go on vacation. And we were talking, I'm coming back at 3 a.m. I was like, oh, you're coming back at the morning? Yeah, I was like, are you coming back at 3?
You got it. Oh.
And yes, I did the extension, but then, the lender called me yesterday and said, we're ready.
West now, I usually. I'm here.
And then another one. Geez, no. And then they were like, there is a deposit of 2,000 some, 2,400, I think. And they are accounts on December the 31st. So we just got the statement. And I was like, what? They said, oh, we were doing a statement for a friend, letting us know they transferred us 2,400 to buy the car. You know, and I was like, I was still thinking, how am I gonna do
You're gonna
it?
get
I-
around that.
Yes, because I was like, the lender just texted me, and I'm like, do you know what it is? And I was like, yeah, I know.
Don't do it.
I don't know how to explain it. And I was like, at the end, they don't need it really, because I was able to get, enough,
Okay.
seller credit. And I was with the lender, why do you need the statements at the end? They're not gonna get any money from that. It was like, oh, just the 500, you know, that they paid for the earnest money. And I was like, well, 500, we already have 1,500 account when we started the transaction, so just don't count the damn 240.
Yeah.
Use it, you know?
Yeah.
But.
You'll get it worked out.
I know, it's like, that everybody tells you, don't get emotional, I'm like, how? Right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
you get invested in it.
yeah.
Take care of it. Bye.
It's at least up and running and get ready to get on the track too. Yeah, but I can grow it. But I mean, that's gonna be small. But I think we need to go ahead, out of the hospital, do some research. On those. Some people haven't, some people don't. Think we gotta go ahead, put one together. Yeah. They never. I don't suppose I would, couple of them did. Doesn't matter, pick one way or the other. Okay, but it's low, maybe. Maybe. Okay. So, hang, yeah.
probably, if she can be, she will, if she doesn't have to be, she doesn't, I mean, I'm indifferent.